and the boy is a teenager, but it did not happen within the four walls of the school. So that was one hand. There was something to be dealt with, that a 10-year-old girl was having that kind of sex. Yes. It was really, really erratic, right? So that was a case, you understand, on its own. That's one hand. Yeah. On the other hand is, this was supposed to be like something that happened within the school. No, sorry, under the purview, the guidance of the school, because the school was the one that carried all of them to Dubai for that trip. That was another hand. I mean, one thing else, another angle. Then there was the hotel, right? What happened to the supervision on each floor? Because I know a lot of hotels, they do a lot of monitoring and all of that. So how come there was nothing around, you know, monitoring the hallways when you know that children were lodging in that hotel? That's one hand. Yeah. Then again, the Lagos state government, in the bid to react to the situation that happened all over the news, they just wake up and say all schools, and they are not just shutting down the school where they attend. All the branches. Christian is not a school that is just in one place. I think they have in Lekki, they have in VGC. I think this happened in VGC. They have in I know of Okpebi. Or I didn't even know of Anthony. So they have a lot of branches, right? So how can you just say something that happened? This is, first of all, the students were from a particular branch, which is the VGC branch, if I understand it correctly. You then shut down the entire school. So, but now, they have reopened the school. Exactly. But we just want to review. If something, because you cannot prevent children from being children, especially where there are no real parenting happening. So the people that should have been held responsible. Thank you. So what should you think? What are your thoughts on this?
So I mean, I feel like what should have happened initially was not to shut down the whole branches, because it's not like the case of Sly that a student died in the school premises. Yes. This happened abroad, right? So what I feel should have happened was, maybe if at all the government wants to really, like, you know, do something disciplinary about it, they should discipline the school management, basically. Because first of all, the parents of these children trust you with the guidance, and then, you know, making sure that their children are safe. And then this is like overseas to a country that is not even Ghana, or that you guys went by road. So it means that anything can actually happen. And I mean, from experience, based on, I mean, my own time in secondary school, when you even see like people that, you know, would go for holidays or excursions and all that, there is always a either the teacher or maybe somebody like an adult supervising. And then the funny thing now is, they don't even allow these children to they shouldn't have even allowed these children to sleep alone, in the sense that, yeah, okay, maybe because I think part of the things people talked about on the video was that there were 3 boys and she was the only female. And one of the boy was saying, I want to sleep, people are disturbing me. So which means that that room basically probably was for only the boys, and then she came into the room. So now the thing now is, these children that are in that room, what happens if somebody other than the girl, maybe somebody else comes into the room to attack them, or something happens? So is it that no adults was actually...
That one is a conversation. Let us ask the expert, because
yes.
Me, I'm just going to focus tonight on Lagos State Government, because there are so many angles to this conversation. Really, yeah. But Taiwo Akinlami is a social development lawyer, co-founder of Power Parenting Company, Parents' Right to Social Protection advocate, and publisher. Akinlami is arguably Africa's foremost child protection thinker and practitioner. His unique philosophy and techniques and teachings on family strengthening child protection and related matters have been well received in over 133 countries. Akinlami is also a prolific writer, poet, and blogger, and he's joined us live from the US of A. Thank you so much, Taiwo Akinlami, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm struggling to hear you, but I think I heard a part of the conversation that you were having before you brought me in. I'm available to answer your questions.
Okay, so I just want us to review this conversation. So let's just start from the basic, the topic. We're sorry that we're having a bit of sound issue, but if you can hear me right, we want to discuss why, I mean, the Lagos State government's role in all of this Chrisland school matter, right? There was a shutdown and there was a reopening. What do you think should have been the best thing that the government should have done? There was a case of underage sex. So what should have been the government's role? Was it right for them to have even shut down the school in the first place?
Well, let me start by saying that there's a culture that is becoming very, very rampant, and it's a destructive culture, cancel culture. We try people on the pages of newspaper, we try people on the platform of social media, these things ought not to be so, because you see, we will not always have enough facts to take final comments, to make final comments on certain issues when they occur. That is why there has to be investigative platforms that are open to the members of the public. And because they're open to the members of public are able to take a cue from what these institutions are saying. For example, in Lagos State, there's Ministry of Education, there's Ministry of Youth and Social Development, there's Ministry of, there's Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Agency. All of these agencies and line ministries are responsible for the well-being of children within the school system, because they also regulate schools in Lagos State. Now, when a matter happens, what is the role of these institutions? Their role is to swing in, investigate very fast, and let the members of the public know their findings. But we find out that is not always the case. In the case of Doen, it was not the case. There was an outcry, then the school was shut down. Now, the school has been reopened. Now, if a school was shut down in public, how come it was reopened in secret? So you look at Chrisland Matter. Chrisland Matter, there was an allegation by a parent that her daughter was raped, and now it was in the public domain, and the Lagos State government was hearing like every other person, and the next thing that the Lagos State government did was to shut down the school by fiat. And when we see things like this, we begin to ask, have we left military government? Are we still in a military government? If there's a matter, if a matter comes to the fore and it is the domain of the public, the rule of natural justice, which is the rule that you can't judge a man without hearing from him or without hearing from her, the rule says that you must hear from the other party. You know, the first to please his case seems just, and the other comes to examine him. So Chrisland leadership was reading about the closure of their school like every other person. You know, they were thrown into quandary, into confusion. What is going on? The Lagos State government have not found out whether the allegation was true, whether it was April Fool happening late in April, whether it was just a rumor. But on the basis of that trending news, a school was shut down. I think that is not right. But again, within 1 week, the Lagos State government reopened the school, and they now say that they are conducting investigation. Now, which will come first? Is it to shut down the school, reopen it to say you are conducting investigation, or to conduct investigation first? These are interesting times where we don't even know, what is happening anymore. So for me, if we have to look at the nitty-gritty of what happened there, our institutions cannot continue to run in fear. Our institutions must be confident that even when they go wrong, you don't throw away the child with bathwater. You want to find out what is wrong. You are interested in fixing it, not in crushing the institution involved.
You know what? Because we don't have, usually we do not have a lot of time when we are talking.
Straining to hear you.
Oh, Sugar, you're straining to hear me. So that's why I'm trying to reduce my... Okay, so Taiwo Akilami, can you hear me? Right? If we were to break down step-by-step move that the government should have taken, what should have been the first thing to do? Because again, we see these things always happening, especially with the Lagos State government, right? Things happen and they just act in haste. What should have been the ideal thing to do? If you were to consult for the government to say, this has happened, these are the steps that should be taken, systematically and legally, what should those steps have been?
Well, I can hardly hear you, but sure. I want to believe that I can make further comments.
Yes, go ahead.
What I want to say is that, number one, as of today, a lot has been said. Christian school was reopened by a press release by the government, signed by the Commissioner of Education. We are glad that the Lagos State government retraced its step early. Now, this statement has now said that the matter is going to be investigated, and that those children involved they are going to get psychosocial support. These are critical ways to go. But now, where do we go from here? I think that's what we need to be interested in. It is not about things happen, we take fire brigade approach, then we walk back our steps, then we go to bed. That's why it is interesting that this conversation is being had after the school has been reopened. So where do we go from here? What are we supposed to do? How do we prevent this kind of things from occurring? Note that in all of this, our major interest is the child, are the children that are involved, who are in the midst of all of this. Now, as of today, some parents have gone online, they have exposed the identity of their children. The conversation has moved from what happened in Dubai to the lifestyle of a particular 10-year-old girl. That's what the conversation has become today. If you follow the trend, it was that a school took children to Dubai and something happened in Dubai. Now, as that was going on, there were some tapes, there was a particular tape that was circulating of children abusing themselves because children do not have sex. Any sexual contact between children, anybody below 18, is abuse because children cannot give consent to themselves. They were abusing themselves. That's what happened in that tape. Though I never saw the tape, I just heard what happened in the tape because I refused to see the tape, because seeing the tape is promoting child pornography. I will see the tape, is against the law. According to Cybercrime Act, Cybercrime Act 2015, we are not supposed to view child pornography. You are not supposed to view it. You are not supposed to distribute it. You are not supposed to use it as a point of advocacy. Whatever advocacy you want to do that allows you to share child porn is an advocacy that puts the child in a worse place than it made the child. So I've never seen it, but I'm aware of what happened there. So now the conversation has moved from that bizarre incident to the identity of a 10-year-old girl who has been alleged to be unlikely, to have over 500 videos and all of that. And I think that is in itself is damaging. Is damaging to that child. At the end of the day, after the deed has been done, after people have blamed who they want to blame, this child, the destiny of this child, if care is not taken and the children involved is truncated, is affected for life. Because internet does not forget. It can be 10 years time, it can be 15 years time. That all that we have done now, we come to hunt that little innocent young girl. Because I call her innocent because whatever she has become today is a manifestation of the investment of particularly the parents in her life, is manifestation of investment of everybody around the child. So I don't hold children responsible in this kind of situation. If I'm having one-on-one conversation with them, there's a way I'm going to talk to them. But if I'm having this kind of conversation, the members of public need to know that we goofed, we produced that girl, our inaction produced her. Above all, a parent came to the fore against the admonition of UNICEF to come and share the identity of our child, to claim that our child was abused. If a child is abused, is the first place to come to. If a child is abused, the courts are there, the agencies of government are there, but the parent chose not to explore those measures that adequately protect the child. They decided to explore those measures that will, at the end of the day, do more harm to the child than good, and that is very sad.
Okay, so I want us to take a very quick break. When we come back from the break, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 and they pay.
in raising our kids. Parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on PlusTvAfrica, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
All right, so if you just tuned in, we're having an amazing chat with our Kilami, although you cannot hear us, we're having network issues. All right, so on the Chrisland school matter, and we're trying to review the Lagos State government's closure and reopening of the school, and the government role generally in things like this. Now, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. I'm really hoping, Taiwo, can you hear me? If you cannot hear me, let me probably chat the question to you. Because I have a question I would like to ask. Can you hear me? Because I would like to ask a question based on what you just said about the parents. So what should the Lagos State government, what should they do to the parents that decided to explore social media as a point to talk about the issue of the allegation? I suppose this protected, what's it called, platforms where they could have gone to go and report that issue. I don't know if you heard that question.
Okay, so I didn't hear you clearly, but I want to believe that you want me to respond to. I want to believe that you want me to respond to. So in the beginning, you made reference to the role of the school and what happened in Dubai. Mm-hmm. I hope you know that as of today, there's no official statement that has been released as to what happened in Dubai. Everything that we are hearing is conjecture. The side of, as a matter of fact, the school has issued a press release. In that press release, they made it clear that they had 76 children who joined them, and only 5 children, went out of line, went out of order. That is the statement the school has released. Now, there's a lot of speculations, a lot of things that are out there. Now, the only way what the school has said can be countered is the report of the Lagos State government on the issue. What did they find? That is the only way the school can be countered. And I think that I want to be patient. It is important that we understand that we cannot judge Chrisland as of today. And let me quickly say, what is happening in Chrisland is unfortunate. Why? You know why it is unfortunate? Because I happen to know the school. That's the truth. I happen to consult for them on their child protection matters. I happen to understand that I'm not aware of too many schools in Nigeria today who pay close attention to child protection the way they do. And please note, I am not here to hold forth for Chrisland. Are you getting it? Chrisland has been holding forth for itself. I'm not Chrisland publicist. My interest is how all of this pan out for the child. Whatever we do, whether Chrisland is short, whether Chrisland is reopened, whether the parents come to the media or they don't come to the media, the most important thing is at the end of the day, everything that we are doing, does it represent the best interest of the child? Whether tomorrow something happens, it may not be Chrisland, it may be another school. How does our action as the media, as the government, as the school continue to engender the confidence of the members of the public? Those are fundamental issues. If things like this happened in a sane society, how is it addressed? How do we do it? What do we need to do? What are the conditions for closing down? What are the conditions for reopening? All of these are conversations that are critical, and it is important for us to have. Unfortunately, those conversations are locked at the back burner of conversation in cases like this. We hardly have it.
Okay, so let's take some comments. Alero. because we're trying to have Tawa Clem, if you can check your chat if it's possible to probably read the comments, because what
Yes. Okay, so I have a comment here. Hey my sister at Ways, the government shouldn't have shut down the school at the first instance. The offense was not committed within Chrisland, that's within Chrisland school. It affected other innocent children studying in the school. I still maintain my chance that we should not allow underage kids on using Android phones. Lately, the upbringing of that little girl by the parents did not speak well of the scenario, and I don't believe she is 10 years old from the video and her crazy pics on the internet. This is from Bobby Kennedy from Jalingo.
So you see, this is the thing that everybody keeps talking about.
Yeah, she doesn't look 10. She doesn't look like a 10-year-old child. I mean, I feel like we should even let everybody, like he said, let's take the conversation away from the act has happened, whatever it is has happened, right? And I mean, like he said, we need to focus on how best are we going to handle this situation, mostly from the children's perspective.
Absolutely.
How do we even try as much as we can? Because I was even going to ask him that. I mean, as a
fantastic. Go ahead.
Hallelujah.
Go ahead.
I would like to know, I mean, based on your expertise as a child protective advocate, what would you say is the best way right now? Everything has happened, right? We know the situation. I mean, her image is out there. People know about her, and the story is not a pleasing story. So I would like to know, as a professional in this case, what would be the first thing you would do to, I mean, handle this situation? If at all you were asked to represent this child, what would be the things you would do? The first thing, I mean, and the other processes that you actually, carry up to just ensure that this situation is actually being managed properly.
Okay, I think the first thing is for the parent to stop this conversation. I still read something that the father was saying, was it yesterday? He was still making some statements yesterday.
Yeah.
I think that he was making a statement yesterday. I forgot what the statement is.
Okay, so if you can hear me, the conversation
yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think that the first thing we need to do is to stop this campaign. We need to stop it, because it is inimical to the interests of children. UNICEF, when we were dealing with traditional media, the media that is traceable, not the kind of guerrilla media that we're dealing with right now, where everybody is a media person. Once you have a phone and you have data, you are a media practitioner. You can do and undo. You can destroy people's life. You can kill and make alive. Once you have a phone and you have some followers and you have data, you are good to go as a media person. So all of this had made nonsense of people who go to school to study mass communication, had made nonsense of the expertise you display on your program, the research that you do. All this guerrilla media has made nonsense of it. And so that is why media practitioners, people like you who are astute people, should insist on best practice. And UNICEF, when it was traditional media, said, when a matter has to do with children and a child is abused, particularly if it has to do with child sexual abuse, we should conceal the identity of the child by all means necessary. We should. Now, if they were writing that, if UNICEF has that position, which is on their website, for protocol for reporting matters that have to do with children, when it was traditional media, what do you think UNICEF will be saying now? Sure. That matters that has to do with children must not be brought to the public sphere. When the child is abused, we must seek private ways to solve those problems, because we cannot control what happens when that news leaks.
Sure.
So the challenge is that we need to stop that campaign. Number two, there are no hopeless situations, only hopeless people. That's what Claire Booth said. So I believe that it is not over for the 10-year-old girl. What is happening is that we need to stop this campaign. We need to seek help for the child, psychosocial support, regular therapy for that child. For the purpose, two things need to happen to that. Two things. That child is dealing with the impact of what has happened to her by, by being involved in sexual activities, which is an abuse of herself and everybody involved. Number two, the publicity. The fact that she's before the public domain now. Those are two major things that she's dealing with, and if we are not careful, those things are capable of destroying her for life depending on what we do. So what do we need to do? We cannot overlook what has happened. We need to begin to look for help for these children, particularly for that girl. We need to look for psychosocial support. We need to look for, and that has to be continuous counseling. We need to take her away from the social media. That her account needs to be closed down. A person, you are not supposed to have a Likey account until you are 16 years old. How come a 10-year-old girl has a Likey account? Posting over 500 videos on those of our parents. We need to stop that. We need to stop that platform. We need to stop that, and we need to now begin to work with her in terms of inculcating positive value system. I believe that there's a change that is lurking around. If only we take advantage of that change, because this is the best time to help her, to work with her, to let her see the implication of what has happened. Those around her should apologize to her for failing her, for letting her down. One, for not helping her to understand that all those things she was posting were inimical to her interest. Two, for coming out to begin to have this conversation without proper recourse to the impact of the conversation on her. Everybody in her life, particularly her parents, and those who took the news, they need to be dealt with.
Absolutely.
Last thing, the government.
I was coming.
Regulate the media.
Wait.
Where everybody can publish anything, call himself or herself any name, no professional training, no nothing. You just come out, and because you have followers, you believe you are a media person. This is destroying our people. That is what happened in the Deeper Life case. In the Deeper Life case, that's how the woman came out and alleged that her child was sexually molested in a Deeper Life in Akwa Ibom. The picture was everywhere. You know what happened at the end of the day? Some people said they wanted to make the child a brand ambassador of a truth. It became a means to defraud her mom and also perpetrate further evil. The mother came out again and did another video and said she has been defrauded on the basis of that. Look at that undue exposure. Some people took advantage of it to say they wanted to make the child a brand ambassador. From there, what did they do? It boomerang again. So those are the things that happen when we expose our children unduly. And this is something that we need to capture. The government knows how to ban Twitter, but the government does not know how to arise when it comes to
that has to do with that brings me to that question I had asked you. I don't know if you can hear me. When I said to you that what should the government have done, or what should they even do now, because the parents have already committed a crime. Yeah. Because they should have explored the channels for the protected channels, if at all there was an allegation of sexual molestation. But the mother was the first person to go on social media to say her daughter had been raped. So what is the legal measure that the government should do so that tomorrow no parent will wake up tomorrow to expose the child unduly? Right? What should the government, Lagos State government, be doing to parents like that just go out on social media and go and say all sorts of things and expose those children when we know that it is illegal? Oh, did you hear me? Oh, sugar.
Can you hear me?
Did you ask me a question?
Oh, yes. Lord have mercy.
Can you hear me?
Can they switch on my talk back?
You asked me a follow-up question to what I said, right?
No. I think if they switch on my talk back, you can hear me. Okay, today is today. Can you hear me now? Tayo, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Okay, well.
It's raining, that's why.
Yeah. So I was going to say, if you can hear me, switch on the talk back, please. If you can hear me, I was saying that what should the government do to the parents that decided to explore social media? I suppose going to the right channels to report this alleged issue. So the parents are the ones exposing these children, always coming out on social media. So can we start to put some kinds of strict measures so that no parent will wake up tomorrow and expose a child unduly?
Well, the network is doing violence. Is doing violence to this conversation.
Okay, can you hear me?
You can hear me. I didn't hear you. I tried to, but I think I should make further comments in line of what the further comment I'm going to make is the fact that we are dealing with an unusual situation. Schools need to sit down and ask themselves some critical questions. Are you willing to lead the 21st century child? Parents need to sit down and ask themselves the critical question. Are you willing to lead a 21st century child? We need to come to a place where we agree that these children are ahead of us, far ahead of us, far ahead of us. And if for whatever reason we are going to lead them, we need to descend from the Mount Olympus of saying, I'm a parent. No, you need to now enter the school of the children and learn from them, hear them. What are their cries? What are the issues they are dealing with? Why are they behaving the way they are behaving? What are the things they are dealing with? You cannot know because you were not socialized digitally. You were socialized analog. Analog is slow. If analog was good, we wouldn't have needed digital. Digital makes things faster. Analog was slow. So we analog minds as parents, we are trying to teach digital mind, and we are not humble enough to sit down and ask the question, to say, digital mind, how is your mind working? As of today, the concept of discipline needs to change. The concept of relationship with children needs to change. If socialization is anything to go about, we must understand that the children we are dealing with today are ahead of us. They are digital native. We are digital aliens. And it is important that we understand that and we humble ourselves and begin to learn from our children so that what we learn from them, we can help them.
Thank you so much.
I think, thank you so much.
Thank you. I mean, I miss the struggle to hear ourselves. I mean, his points were so valid. Because, I mean, this reminds me of what Norma was talking about.
I'm hearing you now.
Also, can you ask the question? I think he can hear you.
So, I basically was asking that what can the government do to ensure that parents do not use social media as a means to, so for instance, now the mother of this girl, the first thing she did was to go on social media to talk about the incident, to expose the incident further, because if she didn't have that conversation on social media, it wouldn't have happened and probably wouldn't have been aggravated this way.
Unduly expose
so, I mean,
child.
so now, what should the government do to ensure that there are no, there are some measures taken in place to make sure that parents do not unduly expose their child to the media, mostly when it comes to situations like this that shouldn't actually be exposed to the media?
Okay, look, if let's assume without conceding that there was a rape case. Now, this was a case of children against children. Let's assume without conceding, because from the report we have read, no rape took place. No rape took place. It was children who were misguided and were abusing themselves. Now, the role that the caregivers have to play there is a role that needs to be investigated, looked into, and all of that, and we come with lessons that are critical for going forward. But you see, if it was a case of rape, assuming without conceding, it happened in the soil of another nation. What exactly is the government? What exactly are we investigating? Are we investigating the sexual abuse? Are we investigating the sharing of the video? If we are investigating sharing of the video, yes, we can investigate under the Cybercrime Act 2015. So, are we looking at the administrative role of the parent? Then, are we looking at the need to protect the children, even if they were in conflict with the law? That's what happened in the Ebano case. You know, there was this case of a child that was allegedly accused of burning down Ebano. And she was allegedly caught on tape. And what did the media do? The media began to release the video of this girl, when in actual fact, the Child Rights Act made it abundantly clear that even where children are in conflict with the law, their identity must be shielded. Even when children are the victim, their identity must be shielded. Now there's a coroner inquiry going on in case of Sylvester Romani. The media has been barred from coming into that coroner inquiry. Why? Because children are giving evidence. They are being led in evidence. Because children are the ones giving evidence, their identity is supposed to be shielded. Which of that part does the person who granted that woman platform, it did not know and is not supposed to know? Now, which as that person who granted that woman that interview, as he or she been interrogated, has it been answered question that he or she has flouted the law by doing what he or she did, by bringing out that news. Now, because you see, the challenge is that if media houses were invited for questioning after the Ebano case, people will have learned. The problem is that we don't learn from our mistakes. Because showing the picture of the Ebano girl who allegedly burned down Ebano was against the law, was contrary to the position of the law, particularly the position of the Child Rights Act, which is an extant law in Nigeria. Now, which is a law that is also existing in Lagos State, which is a law existing in many places when those pictures were shown. But the truth of the matter is that nobody is asked questions because the government does not see the direct impact of this. If it is that somebody is making political statements or somebody is saying something that they believe will affect the government, if it is the Reverend Father Kuka that is saying something, the federal government will respond sharp because they can see how that affects their existence. But when it comes to our children, we look another way. We blame only the school. We blame, but we don't sit down and in this matter, the government has not done well. You know, the media houses who kept publicizing that thing, note, I never saw that video. I never shared it with one person. All of this girls' matter that is going on, I have never reposted, tweeted, liked, anything that has to do with it. As far as I'm concerned, it is the noise of the marketplace. I cannot be part of those who will spread it because I know that every time I click my laptop, anytime I click the button of my phone and I'm commenting and I'm sending something, I know that I'm endangering the life of those children involved. I won't do it. All of my comment has been to come out and say that what is going on is wrong. It's not in the best interest of the children and it must be stopped.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a final comment quickly.
Yes, I was just going to say that, so one of our viewers just commented that the impression that the mother exposed her daughter is not true. The video was already trending on in the social media before the mother came to cry out. I mean, whatever the case may be.
The mother did not cry out for the video that was online. And this thing did not break. I followed the news intently. This news did not break, did not become a major news until the mother came out. What became news was not that those children were having sex or were sexually molesting themselves and it was videoed. This is not the first time we're going to see video of children trending like that, and it never became any issue. Now, so the main, and that does not make it right. That does not mean it is right. The main issue that happened here, even if people saw the girl, did they know her name? Was the name of the girl in the video that was supposed to be trending? Her name was not there. Who exposed the name of the child? It was when the mother came out that the mother mentioned the name of the child. And it was then that people began to dig into who this child is. You know the media now. You know the social media. You know the bloggers. They are trying to outdo themselves. You bring out this one, I bring out that one. There was a pastor that was accused of sexually abusing a woman. A woman came out to say that she was also sexually abused by that pastor, but she shielded her identity. Another blogger came out and revealed the identity that was shielded. Even if the mother has shielded the identity, there's a way the identity will have been brought out by bloggers, guerrilla journalism. So the point, we must not miss the point. Whether we like it or not, whether we argue from now to tomorrow, the children are the losers in this matter. They are the losers, except we do something.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
oh my goodness. And on that note, we've run out of time. But you know, even with the technical challenge that we had, I mean, you were able to give us a lot of pointers. We are hoping that the government is listening because some people should be arrested. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Tawa Kinami. Now, before we go, thank you, Alero. We had a fantastic conversation. Do ensure you follow us on Instagram so that Wayshow Africa interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media, like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. If you missed this, our interesting quote, here it is again. The government's solution to a problem is usually as bad as the problem. We'll see you guys live at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation. That shouldn't be though. All right, bye.
Bye, thank you.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, PlusTvAfrica, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajitumobi.
Hey, what's up guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshuke. Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. Like, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event
on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
In raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on PlusTvAfrica, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Today on The Breakfast, new guidelines of the All Progressives Congress give Amechi Ngige others 72 hours to resign or forget 2023 ambition. Just where does the pendulum swing?
Also on The Breakfast, it's time to show integrity. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, urges political parties to make drug integrity tests part of the screening requirement for aspirants.
And we'll be reviewing the biggest stories making headlines across the national dailies. Welcome to The Breakfast this Thursday morning. I am Justin Akadoni.
I am Messi Ebopo. It's good to have you join us this beautiful Thursday morning.
Yes, it is indeed a pleasure to have you join us. How is the weather at your end? Here in Lagos, it's been a bit chilly. It's been raining since last night, and although it has stopped, but some places are still experiencing some drizzling. Mercy, how was the weather around you this morning?
I really don't know why people start conversations saying, how's the weather?
Yes.
What's with the weather?
Because it is a welcome change. In Lagos, it has been crazily hot for some time. So with the rain last night, I'm sure some people slept like a baby, or like babies, or like logs of wood.
Well, some people slept like logs of wood. Others probably would have their roof taken off, or maybe, in the floor, their car drowned or something.
Are you talking out of experience?
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying that everywhere is flooded. You know what it is. A lot of people, when it gets to this point in time, maybe we'll just stick with the dry season and, just stay with sun and all of that. Because whenever it rains, it's usually not a fantastic experience. I mean, just the last rain before this one, it was really, a disaster where you had a lot of people saying houses were destroyed, flood and what have you. But we need to be on top of the game. I mean, the responsibility of protecting our environment is a collective one. We cannot wait for the government all the time. So some people would say, you have the markets flooded, you have everywhere blocked, you can't. But every day, it just shows you that human activities is responsible for all of this action. So the gutters are clogged, and that's because...
Thank goodness you
yes,
said
that's it. I mean, we are responsible.
Because, Mercy, we need the rains for so many things. In as much as, Mercy, you don't want the greens, you don't want to eat, you don't want vegetation and all of that. And all that is because of the rain. If you say it doesn't, you don't want it to rain for 1 year just because of floods and every other thing, Mercy, you go home.
But do you know how many people are going through a lot?
Yes, but that's the more reason why we should not throw things into the canal and, free up our drainages. I know a whole lot behoves on the citizens to do the right thing. But then the rain should rain. Let's move away from
and
the
the flood should take people's houses away,
history.
and people should just perish.
Okay, let's slide on to top trending. The rains are not trending right now, but the education minister Mwajuba is trending. There are reports that he has picked up his presidential form for 100 million naira, and it has gotten a whole lot of Nigerians talking. It's all in the wake of the ASU strike. You remember ASU has been on strike since February the 14th, and a lot of people are saying, what does this really tell? He is the education minister, and right now his main thought, his main business right now is to contest for presidency in 2023 when our students are at home and lecturers are just there, seated with the federal government not meeting up to their demands since 2009. Mercy, how do you reason all of that?
First of all, so we go back to the point where we say everyone has a right to contest. I mean, so because the Constitution allows everyone the opportunity to vote and be voted for. And so, yes, they're within their rights. They're acting not, contrary to the law. And that's it. Otherwise, I mean, the other restriction would be whether or not you're a criminal or you have any criminal records, which would be the responsibility of the police and also the judiciary. So it's a long conversation. But however, it's interesting. But I don't understand what's going on. If you notice, it's a pattern. And a lot of people would just say it's a conspiracy theory. So if you notice the pattern that too many persons are coming out in the APC.
Have you noticed? You also declared yesterday.
I'm not partisan now. Of course, when I don't belong to any political party. So
but you declared, independent candidacy yesterday.
No, I can't. The Constitution hasn't given all of that. No one listened to me. That's number one. So just forget about it. Okay. The ambition is dead on arrival. So, but really? The point is,
I'll vote for you.
Would you listen to me?
Sometimes.
No, your vote alone cannot make me go anywhere.
I'll get out my constituency, my entire village.
Who do you have? No, okay, let's move away from that.
Let's talk about
the major thing here is, so I don't know what's going on, but if you look at the pattern, especially with the APC, you found that every minute, now there's going to be a primaries for the presidential ticket. I mean, for the presidential primaries on the 30th and the 31st. So it's going to be 30th through the 31st of May, right? Am I correct?
Yes, next month, yeah.
So, and then you still have a lot of persons coming out. So yesterday we talked about the governor of Cross River State. Now we have, education minister. So what's really going on? But normally, if you look at how this goes, is if you have a lot of people come out, for instance, at the end of the day, you have the elections, then you have Justin, Messi, every other person out in the race. You know what happens? We begin to split the votes.
Okay.
I don't know if you get it.
I do understand you.
So I don't know if this is a strategy at the party level, because there's going to be splitting of votes. So maybe just one vote will get someone there. You have to split it.
At the end of the day, the party will decide on just one person.
No. But the APC is not saying that they're going to. It's not a consensus issue.
No, what I'm saying is that even if they all declare interest and they have bought forms and paid 100 million, eventually it's just one of them that would actually fly the party.
And that's because it's still possible that within this, okay, so within this particular space, you have the fact that we want you to become the flag bearer.
You want me?
But because, no, I'm just citing for instance now, we want you to become the flag bearer. Yes. But because we cannot come out to say we want consensus, and that's because we're going to offend a lot of persons in the party and also other regions, and so we just say, let's leave it open. So we leave it open, and then we have a lot of people come out to say, hey, we want to become president. Not necessarily that they want to become president, because I don't understand. They know they cannot win they cannot become the flag bearer of the party, but they come out. So why? What's the intention behind all of this? So it's going to split the votes within the delegates.
It would actually do that.
So you probably would have a group of persons who would say, okay, we want a certain person to become the flag bearer. And all of the attention will be, pushed in. And these conversations are usually not...
I get all of that, but Mercy, the concern for me here is that those who are responsible to, govern the space of the country are no longer doing that because of their interest. Good thing, we're even going to discuss that much later on the show, the APC new guidelines, and the ministers and those who have political appointment being asked to resign. They have barely like 3 days to do so they can actually decide if they want to contest or if they want to stay in government and face the business of governance. For instance, we have asked to be on strike for over 2 months, and the discussions have been stalled over time. I know that he has the constitutional right, the minister that needs to contest, for the presidency. But the fact is that I feel it's morally wrong, although morality doesn't really count in most things we say here in Nigeria. But the students are at home, lecturers are not, teaching, and the concern right now is not even about how to fix this problem. It's about your personal ambition for 2023.
Maybe he thinks that when he gets there, he's going to solve the problem.
Why does he should do that right now?
It probably might not just be within his, entirely not in his space.
But he is the head of education in Nigeria, so everything behoves on him. If lecturers are on strike, first of all, everything points to his direction.
So everything points to his direction. You also cannot forget the fact that if you look at it, you ask yourself, what's the budget for education? That's also another issue. So as much as it might feel like he's a king in his space, he's not really a king, right? But not holding brief for him, it is what it is. Politics, interest, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, but permanent interest, and that's what it is. But if you look at the APC, and if you look at the fact that every minute, just before we leave this conversation, we might just have another person who's going to be declaring.
I won't be surprised. But they have barely 3 days to do that, because from their constitution, they have to do that 30 days before the primaries. But let us move on away from the APC, away from those who are declaring their intention to run for the presidency. Yul Edochie is in the news. In as much as I don't like discussing people's private business, but
when your private business becomes public business, we talk about it. Yes. Justin, you don't need to become very organized.
I should be organized.
Yeah.
No, I have my dogs in a row, but the thing is that, fine, Nigerians are coming at him because of what he said about his wife, or his first wife. Right now, what we hear is that Yul Edochie is announcing his second wife. It was everywhere, and he talked about his son that he got through the second wife. So, but what got many people talking was, there's a time he was just pouring a whole lot of, praises on his first wife, how the woman stood for him, for like 15 years and all of that. And voila, Mercy, the story has changed. You're smiling.
Because there's a lot, to talk about. Young ministers, Yul Edochie, a lot of people have respect for him, and not also looking at the fact that he has his come out to political ambition, right? But you know, in Nigeria, we have not really incorporated the issue of, you know, your personal life, I mean, that into your political chase and race. In other climes, it would be a very big deal. It would be a big issue. And it had always been, you know, a big issue. But let's just continue to say that we're a developing nation, and we're also, our democracy is very nascent, and so we have a long way to go. But this isn't public space. You know, it therefore means that it's going to be a public conversation.
Yes.
At the time where he had constantly talked about his wife, 16 years. I mean, he mentioned on that particular tweet, the best thing that has happened, she's never stressed him out.
We trust Nigerians to dig out all of this.
No, but I mean, how do you even explain? I mean, look at it now. How do you juxtapose all of that? So you say 16 years after you put up a tweet and say, your wife has been fantastic, the best thing that's happened to you, 16 years, she's never stressed you. And then two seconds after, this 2022. So we have you saying you have a second wife. He also has a tweet. The good thing is, the internet will never forget. Twitter will never forget you.
People will drag
all of your tweets, including my tweets. So sometimes I'm very careful about the tweets that I actually put out, because you know this space will never. I put out tweets. I tweet, but you know how you can just tweet. You know how you can put out tweets, and 20 years after from now, the tweet will come back and haunt you.
True.
True. So people have actually gone back again to that tweet where he tweeted about, I mean, to a comment that he put out on social media talking about, oh, it's not a big deal. I mean, if you're a man, you have a second wife. It's not that you were a man. It's the fact that you were breeding confusion for the next generation. God, where do we hold you now? You know, there's no correlation. And if people say there's no correlation, where did we? Oh, no.
You know, but the wife.
So some people,
I hear that.
I don't know what to say. I mean, it leaves me very confused and tired.
You know how it is in our African society and tradition. You know, a man can decide to marry as many wives as he so wishes, so long as he can. Sometimes you don't even have the money to take care of the wives, and you have several wives, and have like, you know, a house full of children.
And when you want to go on vacation, it's a lot. So you have to get visa. No, but
the wife has actually commented, right?
Yeah, she has. And so if I start talking now, Justin will say, oh, because you're a woman and then you're sounding very emotional.
I'll just listen.
So, but he tweeted that and said, my son, let everybody meet my son. I'm paraphrasing now and I can't remember what he said. Let everybody meet my son. You know, he's fantastic, great. My second wife. Okay, where's this coming from? And the wife went ahead to say, may God judge you both. That's a lot of fire.
So what do you actually infer from the wife's comment? She's not happy. She's bitter.
Does that sound like she's happy?
So she's bitter. Doesn't she have the right to be? Does she have the right? Is it justified?
When you say bitter, there's something like
she's
bitter.
Not bitter. She's angry,
I mean, that's a lot of betrayal there. Don't tell me bitter. There's something bitter about that.
Who betrayed who?
Oh, Justin, don't put me in the spot. Why are you doing this? But it's quite unfortunate. But I think it's just a human thing. We're humans, and so we're bound to be, you know, on this side and this other side, and you can never tell what would happen. So you just live life and just take it the way it is. Whatever comes, it comes.
We wish Yul Edochie and his family all of the best. But we'll slide away from all of that and move on next to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who is saying that he owes no allegiance to anybody, but of course on the oath of office that he has taken. You know, there's been so much talk since the Vice President declared his ambition to contest for the presidency in 2023. A lot of people, you know, have come out to say that he has betrayed his principle. That's the former governor of Lagos State, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And all of this came to the fore just yesterday. And once again, the Vice President said, you know, categorically that he owes no one any allegiance, anything outside his office. He couldn't really be bothered.
So the question would now be, is that a statement of fact?
Mercy, who does he owe allegiance to?
Do you think that's a statement of fact?
Does he owe allegiance except to the constituent, to the people that he's sworn to protect?
I'm asking you again.
I also treat back at you.
But you need to know that politics, like you have rightly mentioned, we also understand that when people come together, there's interest. Personal interest is number one, top on the notch. And so people would always have permanent interest. The interest will never change. And so they can have affiliations, you know, they could have friends, but these friends would actually always change. And so that's why you say you have no permanent friends, no permanent interests. Oh, okay, no permanent interest. Permanent interest, but no permanent friends. True. And so it means that friends could always change. So the fact that I'm friends with you today might not necessarily mean that I will be friends with you tomorrow, but my interest would always be constant. True. And so if my interest is constant, then anything can happen. I can decide to have another affiliation with another. But it's a lot. So with this, the reason why sometimes I think that we need to take a break, not so much, but because this is actually going to be within the political, you know, arena. The conversation would be within the party level right now. Because with all that everyone will do, I mean, if you look at the list of persons who are contesting now, who wants to become the flag bearer of the APC, the list is almost endless. So you have the former governors, you have governors, you just have a lot of people on that particular list. But the party will decide, and that's what's going to happen, right? So it is when the party moves there, at the end of the day, the party has a decision, then we know we have a flag bearer for the party. Nigerians will definitely decide whether or not they want this particular candidate. So it's okay to have all of these concerns and all of that. But let's also understand that at the end of the day, even when nations come together, you have the United States, you have Nigeria, you have Ghana, you have Germany, you have Japan, they would always act in their interests. National interests and personal interests would always supersede, you know, every other interest. And that's why you constantly have the fact that policies don't really reflect the interests of the people, but reflect the interest of a certain. So maybe the elites or people who are supporting him and his clan and all of that.
Yeah, like speaking of support, you know, all of this came out from what happened, his visit to Ogun State, and how the governor, Dakwa Abiodun, said that he has their support. I don't know if he was speaking for himself or the entire people of Ogun State. But then the vice president actually, you know, was quoted as saying that he has served Buhari, that he should be the next president.
It doesn't really work like that if you look at it, really. Maybe because
it's
you
not
actually
a continuum,
served. Yeah, because you actually served, you know, the president doesn't really work like that. Let's take a, for instance, I mean, let's take a look at Atiku. You remember that Atiku and the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, you know, he was the president,
does it really,
vice president.
like you have said, it does not really follow a complete logic, you know, just because you have served with your principal or the president, that's Muhammad Buhari, that you deserve next. It still comes back to some people
basic
saying
things,
entitlement and all of that. You know, does it really follow? So is it like a pattern? Just because I'm just trying to understand what he meant by that he has served the president, so he deserves, you know, to be the next, because a whole lot of things.
So I think that's a comment and sentiment. I mean, it's a very sentimental comment. Okay, so it's like saying, because I am a graduate, it therefore means that I should have a job.
The best of jobs, really.
No, not necessarily a best of job, but just say because you're a graduate means you should have a job. That's not even, you know, that's not even a criteria for it. So because you have graduated does not mean that you should have a job. I mean, we have a lot of graduates who are out there who don't have a job. So there's a lot, I mean, a lot of work. So first of all, you have to maybe be qualified for certain, you have to have some certain skills that employers would want to, you know, consider and then say, okay, we want to hire you. Now, and if you look at politics, like we see all the time, politics goes beyond saying you have a beautiful face or you're very popular and then you say, hey, I'm here, I want to become president. And that's fantastic, because I see a lot of people who say they want to become president. And sometimes I feel a little bit, you know, what's going on? Do you think that the office of the president is a joke? But because the Constitution says we all have a right, then everybody has a right. But it goes beyond that. There are a lot of issues that are involved. And if you look at the peculiarities surrounding, you know, our own climb, we talk about money politics. It's very big. So we don't need to be very pretentious about this. Let's not begin to say, oh, it doesn't really happen. It happens. money changes hands in our politics. And let nobody begin to say, oh, come on, put the evidence. We know all of that. That's what happens. So you begin to ask yourself, do you have the financial muscle? Yesterday, we had a presidential aspirant of the People's Democratic Party, and he mentioned the fact that in 2019 or thereabout, he could not stand a chance because he didn't have the money. The question is, do you have the money now? So money plays a major role. So you ask yourself, do you have the money? Let's even forget, they'll say, oh, let's not talk about that, but that's the reality. On the other hand, you also need to talk about structures. Elections are not just won by saying, oh, you want to become president, fantastic, you have walked everywhere. That's not it. So if you talk about a certain political party, you have the fact that you have 774 local governments across the entire federation. What structures do you have in this local government? So if you have the old, because you see the hype on Twitter, it's okay to have young people go on Twitter, but how many young persons have the PVC to vote? And mostly you go, because I have monitored elections at the grassroots level, and I tell you the people who come out to vote, these are older people, these are very old people. Now do they recognize, because it is what it is, so they look at the sign, what sign is this, the logo? So how do we identify this party? And they're being told when you see a certain thing, this is a certain party. The umbrella or the so this party that you're going to be conversing, I mean, you're going to be a flag bearer. Do people recognize it? Let's not even forget that poverty is very strong for us. It's a major thing. And some people have also thought that, you know, our politicians have weaponized poverty. So poverty has become a tool where they use constantly ensure that the people stay poor, because when you stay poor, you don't understand the dynamics, and so it's easy for you to be given a bag of salt.
That's why they now do their stomach
infrastructure
and all of that.
And, you know, 2 cups of rice that won't take you a day.
All right. It is actually something. But let's move on to our last top trending for today. You remember the Terrorism Act of 2013. Right now, the Senate is actually amending it, Mercy, and right now they are saying that there should no longer be payment for ransom to kidnappers. You know, there are several angles to this because a lot of people would say, remember all the kidnappings that we have had in the country, you know, in Kaduna, in Niger State, when specifically the governor of Kaduna State that had said that they would not, you know, negotiate with terrorists. But all behind closed doors, what we don't get to hear is that what actually went down. How did these people secure the release of those kidnapped? At the end of the day, monies have changed hands, but we don't get to hear this. But what always hear is that would not negotiate with terrorists. And sometimes the parents of these kidnapped victims, because they are very worried about their children, you know, they do negotiations for themselves, and because they feel the federal government or the state government, you know, are not really doing the needful. So they take the bull by the horns and they negotiate and they contribute and they pay ransom to these kidnappers. I wonder what would happen with this new development.
Well, it's a very dicey conversation, and some people will say that the Senate having to ban payment of ransom to kidnappers is very apt for us. But let's even look at it now. This is actually coming at a time where you remember the fact that the trains were attacked. You remember the train attack that happened.
Train, yes.
Yes, and so you have passengers who were kidnapped. And so payment for ransom. The government over time have said we don't pay ransom. People, the arguments, we've tried to say, hey, we don't negotiate with terrorists. We don't pay ransom to kidnappers. But is that really the true state of things? But this is coming at a time where these families, victims, you know that recently you had all of that report. And so you still have some persons who are still in the hands of these kidnappers, the kidnap that happened. And so the families are already saying that we're ready to embrace negotiation, whatever it is, we're willing to pay, you know, the ransom to get our loved ones being freed. So what's the way out? What's the solution? Will these people be able to, I mean, what's the solution this government is providing?
Do they even trust the government enough to actually secure the release of their family members? You know? I
mean, it's also to the point where you have families saying, okay, we're ready to have this negotiation with kidnappers and to ensure the release of those who have been kidnapped. Right. It's a lot, but let's see how it is. We've not been very great with laws and implementation of some of the loss that we do have. But fingers crossed, we'll see how all of this develops. That's the much we can take at this point in time on Top Trending. We'll definitely return tomorrow with more interesting conversation, generating reactions in different spaces. In the meantime, we will step away, and when we come back, it'll be time for us to look at the front pages of our national dailies. Please stay with us.
Is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria?
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
It's a breakfast in Plus TV Africa. Time for us to take you through the pages of a national daily, as we call it, Off the Press. And we have Ezekiel Nyaitok, a public affairs analyst. He's on standby. He joins the conversation via Zoom. Ezekiel Nyaitok, it's good to have you join us this morning.
Thank you. It's always such a pleasure, a privilege for me to be with you people. Thanks for having me.
All right, then let's take a look at the Leadership newspaper this morning. We start off with the Leadership. Now, the bold caption for the Leadership talks about the presidential screening. NDLEA wants drug tests for Osibajo, Tinubu, Amechi orders. So this is really interesting. It's gotten a lot of reactions. As a matter of fact, a lot of people think that this is a development, a new development to the political scene. Now, right APC leaders or right APC leadership says PDP aspirant orders to follow. Yahaya Bello picks 100 million naira nomination form. Amoshun to declare next week. Amechi Mid-South-East delegates in Owerri. Despite denial, National Hospital cancer treatment machine not working. Why should we be in denial? Troops kill 30 terrorists. Explosion claims 3 soldiers in Katsina. Kaduna train attack victims spend 30 days in captivity. I mean, that's a lot of time. Senator Men's Terrorism Act bans payment of ransom. At the time where you have, victims or family of the victim saying we're willing to have this negotiation. Zamfara deposes 2 emirs, district head over banditry. And we just move away from the Leadership this morning. That's the much we can take. Thank you so much.
All right, away from the Leadership, we'll slide on next to the Punch newspaper. The lead story for this morning is on the Electoral Act. More commissioners are stepped down as Buhari's ministers refuse to go. With about 3 riders or more there, let's see. Governor Tambuwal's 11 commissioners, SSG, Chief of Staff, resign. I'm also joined presidential race, Yahaya Bello and Wajuba peak forms. I won't resign, says Ngige. NLC flees campaign amid ASU strike. Above the masthead, there are some interesting stories. Senate prohibits a ransom payment. Abductees' families seek talks with bandits. Subsidy hits 1.35 trillion naira in 4 months. NNPC to deduct 672 billion naira. Drug test, NMA backs NDLEA, MBA demands legal backing. FG states local government share 725 billion naira as federal allocation rises. EFCC extradite fraud suspect to US over $148,000 scam. Afenifere seeks unity government, says Buhari has failed. Just below the picture there, Lagos traders protest shooting of businessman, Killer Cop, celebrator. These appear. I think I'm aware of that particular story. Apprentice flees to Seme as Lagos wife gives birth to quadruplets. Fire guards TB Joshua's property, destroys tomb shelter. 10 die in Lagos Ibadan road crashes. FRSC blames speeding. Several stories on the Punch, but let's just leave it at that.
Away from the Punch newspaper, we take a look at the Daily Independent. Insecurity. Afenifere advocates government of national unity, says it will midwife a new democratic government. Senate prohibits payment of ransom to kidnappers. And while we're seeking 150 billion naira Beijing finance facility, Delta State government is quoted on that. Banditry, Zamfara government dethrones 2 emirs and district heads, in connection with banditry. And DLEA asks parties to make drug tests part of screening for aspirant. APC rules a special preference for Jonathan, that's the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And you find out calling on him to run unpatriotic, irresponsible. Ayo Adebanjo is quoted on that. It's ought to have Jonathan imposed as consensus candidate, Saga is quoted. And just before we move away from that, federal government okays 853 million naira for consultants to concession Ajao Kuta Steel. And you also have approved 10.48 billion naira, $27.09 million for Ministry of Power. Politician engrossed in 2023 poll while ASU strike lingers, the Labour Congress is quoted to say. That's the much we can take this morning on the Daily Independent.
Away from the Daily Independent, let's take the last story on paper for this morning, which is The Nation. All right, 2023 battle for tickets pits governors against senators. With the writer there, tension in state over slots, parties moderate a struggle for opposition. Ministers insist no resignation before primary. Let's seek foreign aid to free abducted train passengers. All right, let's see more stories. APC get petition to disqualify Abiodun. On the red strip below, INEC resumes issuance of PVCs in Lagos. Burnt, I can't really see that one, but let's see if we can get more stories on that one. Ajaokuta Steel Itakpe Iron Ore get 853 million naira revival cash. Fraud, federal government extradite Nigerian suspect to the United States. Man kidnaps ex-lover. Those are the bulk of the story we can take on The Nation this morning.
Ezekiel, it's good to have you join us this morning, and we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right. But let's get straight to this. It's dominating all of the papers this morning. It talks about the Senate prohibiting payment of ransom to kidnappers. And what are your thoughts?
The very first thing is inconsistencies in our politics. And again, leaving Nigerians in a state where we really don't know when the government is sincere, when when we say government, a lot of times we always leave it to the executive. The legislature, they're also part of government. So when you say government is holistic, we don't know when they are sincere, we don't know when they are serious. Now, if you say that you want to abolish, ban, prohibit the payment of ransom. The question number one is exactly what is the state policy that does not have any coloration of, confusion? Exactly what is the state policy towards these people? As at this morning, or as at yesterday, some government officials are still referring to these people as bandits, whereas a court of competent jurisdiction has declared them terrorists. Now, that gives you a conflicting body language, and especially the people to prosecute the war. They want to know that there is a certain body language of the commander-in-chief, because there's something about the army, who are the people taking this on right now. They kind of have been brought up to follow the order of their boss. And within this context, the boss, which is the commander-in-chief, is Mr. President. Exactly as you are a journalist, you are both in Nigeria, what would you say? Can you go to the street and ask the average Nigerian and ask, what do you think is Mr. President's disposition to this issue of terrorists in the north? And then you also do undercover kind of investigative journalism and go into the minds of the cops, go into the minds of the military. These are things that can be done. And then, unless there is a very clear body language from the military that wherever you are as bandits, we are going to smoke you out, wherever you are, then if you are unfortunate enough to be a victim directly or indirectly of the activities of these terrorists, at the back of your mind, something will tell you that something is going to be done. But if you have no confidence whatsoever that something will be done, and then you are told not to pay ransom, I mean, number one, it emboldens the people to just go, I don't know the word, the terrorists, it will embolden them, whereas the average Nigerian will tell you, go and tell that to the Marines, because I've got to get my people back. So I think that it's a right pronouncement. It's a global best practice, the right pronouncement. But they need to do more than talk. They need to let Nigerians know that they are ready to take this thing head on.
All right, let's look at some other stories, trending across the papers, which is the Electoral Act. Let's see if we could just slide on it just a bit, because we will be discussing that much later on the show. But let me just get your quick opinion concerning that. More commissioners stepped down as Buhari's ministers refused to go. That's on the Punch newspaper. What are your thoughts, Mr. Nyaetok?
I want to bring in 1, 2, 3 perspectives and dimensions that people don't often talk about in this issue of resigning. Number one, I think it is moral recklessness that you want to be in office when you know that you cannot be effective in that office and you'll be paid for it. I'm contesting for the governorship of my state, and I know what it takes me on a daily basis. In terms of time, don't bother about resources yet. In terms of time, I know that I've literally handed over the management of my estate and my company to a second hand, because I've got to have a second address, to go back to. Because if I do that, my office will suffer. I know that there's a lot of consultations. You work till late at night and then you cannot wake up early in the morning. It is just a moral burden that you don't want to be paid for a job that you are not delivering on. That is number one. So if they say, you don't even need to be told to resign. Nobody asked me to hand over my company, as it were, to somebody else to run. Nobody told me. But something told me that I need to get the office running right. Civil service is not a reward center. It is a workstation where you manage the resources of the generality of the people. So why would you want to be in an office that you know you are not going to be effective and efficient in? You can't. We all know that. That's the bottom line. Number two, what's the moral conscience for you to be paid The first part is getting the work done, even if it was free, even if it was a committee that you were asked to given a national assignment to work on. The second one is being paid for a job you're not doing. Weight your morals there. And of course, the third is this. What is it, apart from thinking that you are the only one that can do that job, apart from you, no other person can do it, you are so patriotic, you don't want to let somebody else do the job because you are too good at it, and Mr. President cannot find a replacement for you. The last question I ask you is this. What is there in that office that you don't want to leave? Are there certain contracts that money has just come out, you want to make sure you get it? Is it that you are using it to victimize people, to intimidate people, and to coerce people to follow you? Because if they don't do that, you will not make sure that they are paid, you will make sure that this and that. Do you want to use that office as that tool to hold on to people instead of giving the people reason to believe you and support you? When you put all these things together, it tells me that my vote, my support can never go to anybody that is still in the office, apart from those that are statutory, because like the governor, I mean, you can't leave the office, you can't resign, it won't be nice. Not that you can't, but somehow the constitution covers you. And finally, these are people who just believe in impunity. It's their life, it's their stock in trade. You know that going to the court, there is a chance that it can go against you. But these are people who have come to believe that they can handle the court, they can manipulate the court. How can the Attorney General of the Federation, the Minister of Justice, of all people, be involved in this? I'm not a lawyer, but I know that when you go to court, it can be this way, it can be that way. And for the parties, I think the call is on the parties. I'm happy that the APC has started saying, look, resign or forget it. Now, anybody that is still in office that comes for screening has disobeyed the order. You know, you say the law is complicated, but for me, I want the citizens to see these people as people who believe they are above the law and let them do whatever they want, but let them come and meet you and reject them, reject them, reject them.
All right. Ezekiel, let's also look at the leadership newspaper this morning. And there's a concern about the Kaduna train attack victims. I mean, the fact that they've spent 30 days already in captivity. What can they do now that you have the Senate prohibiting, the payment of ransom? The government doesn't seem like they will be able to go ahead and rescuing these persons who have been kidnapped. So what's going to happen? What should the people now do?
I first, it's such a sensitive matter that I need to I need to like balance out my emotions. Question number one, where is Leah Sharibu? That's just one question. Where is Leah Sharibu? Leah Sharibu's case stands out that anybody with a conscience, with a heart that has some element of the milk of human kindness, and that even has wisdom. This a girl that was said, go, denounce your faith. She said, no, I can't denounce my faith. For a country that needs healing, that needs integration, that has a Muslim now as a president. If it was a Christian, it wouldn't make much impact as much. But a Muslim who says, I am for all faith, Muslims, Christians, and you cannot intimidate, harass, compel, coerce anybody to change her or his faith. And if this lady is being incarcerated on account of this, I have to show that I will not take it. But where is Mr. President on this Leah Sharibu's matter? Where is he? So if he has that attitude and body disposition to Leah Sharibu, I feel sorry for everybody that becomes a victim of a kidnap. And for the train victims, I just pray that God will, we always talk God, because the God on earth, which is government, is not there. So let's go to the God in heaven. That's my prayer, that there will be a certain divine intervention, one way or the other, and that these people and the others will regain their freedom.
So Ezekiel Nyaituk, you are saying that the people, especially the victims of this train, attack or kidnap, should fold their arms and wait for God to intervene because the government has failed.
They should pray for wisdom. The Bible says wisdom is profitable to direct. They should pray for wisdom to know what to do because somebody is already out. I'm sure you're aware of that. So nobody is stopping you from paying. I'm told that a certain person paid 100 million. I don't know if that's true. He's already out. And the history shows that all the other people have been paying some money to get their people out. So I believe that I'm, no matter how you look at it, I'm a Christian and my faith still stands and I still believe in miracles. I do. Okay? But above all, there's a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death or destruction. You can take an action that will hit you both ways, and both ways you lose. And you can take another action that will help you. Now, the only person that knows tomorrow is God, and that's not just phantom thinking. It's a fact. So I believe that they should ask God for wisdom on what to do. Wisdom is profitable to direct. I believe that very well. So it's not that they should fold their arms and wait for God. No, it's that they should ask God for wisdom on what to do. There's always room for divine intervention. He could even give a lead as to, God can lead you, or wisdom can lead you to somebody you can talk to that can give you information, very, very strategic information that can make things work out faster. A lot of times we think we know it all. No, that's the reason why we have faith. And for me, faith is active. It works.
All right, let's stay with the Punch newspaper. Just above the masthead, there is a story on the economy. Specifically, subsidy hits 1.35 trillion naira in 4 months. NNPC to deduct 672 billion naira. Mr. Nyaituk, where are we headed with this issue of fuel scarcity, fuel subsidy, and the warnings that we have gotten from the World Bank over time on this particular issue?
I have maintained a very, very, very consistent position right from the time of President Jonathan. Fuel subsidy is a fraud against the poor. At the risk of being misunderstood, I have several SUVs, and I know the amount of fuel all these V8 engines consume. The fuel I consume alone as an individual is probably more than what I don't want to talk about my village, that's too small, but probably what my ward consumes, 80% of the people in my ward, if not my local government. Who are they? How much fuel do they use in a day? Now you are telling me about 1.35 trillion in 4 months. So you are talking in terms of maybe in a year going to 4 trillion. You know what a trillion is? Why don't you let this thing be? And then, you see, the problem is the poor man has, which I understand clearly, is if you don't enjoy this small one where you see, you no go see them again, because these guys are dishonest, and it's a fact. It's a sad fact. Why don't we have honest people that say, the poor, your problem is transportation primarily. I'll take care of transportation, I'll take care of health care, I'll take care of housing. Those 3 things. And of course, education. What is the budget for health care, education, housing, and transportation put together? It's not even a quarter of the amount you are using in subsidy alone. Subsidy is a scam. Subsidy is a rip-off against the poor. There are so many stories and issues about subsidy that have not been interrogated. And I don't know why we don't do it. Number 1, what is the exact subsidy? Number 2, why are refineries not working? Let me tell you about refineries. Refineries, number one, are not working. And do you know that people are being paid every month who are working in refineries? They are being sent on courses. They are being put on maintenance. All sorts of things are being done on refineries that have been dormant over the past years. When you aggregate all these funds, it just shows a government that really either does not know what they are doing or they couldn't be bothered. It's really, really, really troubling, this issue of subsidy. My prayer is that we will stop all this analysis on media and Nigerians will wake up. I don't know, there's something about government of unity that is advocated by Afenifere. I hope we can touch it. If not so, I would have liked to say something, because that time has come when we have to, as a people, think. I'm sick and tired of the blame game. I know what it's taking me for me to say I want to contest for the governorship of my state, Akwa Ibom State. I know what it's costing me at this stage of my life. I know what it's costing my family. But for how long will we continue to be talking and sit in our comfort zones and expect something to be done? By who? These people? The issue of psychiatric evaluation and drug tests. These are matters that are genuine and germane because there's something fundamentally wrong with our leaders.
All right, Mr. Nyaito, before we let you go, Mercy has one final one.
So quickly, let's just take a look at this. I mean, I'm just asking myself, which should we go for now? But let's quickly look at the issue of politicians being engrossed in 2023 elections, while ASU strike still lingers. And this is what the NLC is quoted to say. What are your thoughts on this? We also have the Minister of Education, who's actually, declared his intention to be part of the president.
Minister of State.
Minister of State, I beg your pardon.
Yeah. Let me use one line on it and then ask myself a question that is very interesting and important to me. One line is this. There's this story of Rome. Nero is wearing headphones while Rome begins to burn. These are people their intention in office is not governance. It's politics. Their intention in office is not governance, but politics. I attended infrastructure, discourse yesterday, and it was, I hardly slept at night. It was very revealing. I do not know how many people who want to be president or governors really understand the state of the finances of their country or their state. When I see all this thing that is going on, I think that I do no longer put any blame on the politicians, but on Nigerians. We need to wake up. We need to know that that time has come that this conversation about APC, ADA, and PDP has to stop. We should stop that conversation. Even the media should help me to stop that conversation and let the conversation be, how can we raise a government that will help us? We're not helpless. We're not helpless. We have 18 political parties. So many political parties have come together. Women and men of conscience have come together. They say, look, let's adopt ADC, African Democratic Congress. Let us profile the people. Let us create a new agenda. Let us create a government of national unity. Let us create an emergency rescue team for Nigeria. Let the conversation be, how can we create this team? Let that become the conversation, and not about minister who wants to contest when everything is falling. Because he couldn't care less. He didn't go there to uphold the things. He went there to politics, and this is the time for him to act. Let us move the conversation to how do we get into ADC and how do we get somebody that will be a good president? How do we get all these amazing people to come together and form a team? How can we rescue Nigeria? Afenifere has hit a right note. What we need today is for us to focus. Leave ADC and PDP and APC alone. Leave them. Completely ignore them. Let them do what they want to do. Let us seize our future. The time is now. How can ADC put up a platform that will recruit and have a sort of leadership that is inclusive, that is focused, that has an agenda that Nigerians will believe in? Within 1 year, Nigeria will turn and head in the right direction and things will be okay. The conversation about these two parties, please, I want to appeal to the media. to just leave them to do their thing. They are goats that will not stop eating in the yard.
Ezekiel Yaitok, we have to let you go now. Thank you so much for being part of the show. We appreciate your thoughts all the time.
Thank you, and God bless you both.
All right. Ezekiel Yaitok is a public affairs analyst, and he joins us every Thursday right here to share his thoughts on some of the national issues making the round. And that's the size of it. On Off the Press, we take a break down. But just before then, let's tell you what happened today in history. And when we return, we're heading straight to our first major conversation. Stay with us.
In raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on PlusTvAfrica, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
Whatever we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 and they pay.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plusttvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Hello and welcome to Space and Style, a property show designed to connect various stakeholders across the property value chain. We can also provide realistic solutions and deepen your knowledge about the interesting world of real estate. We shall showcase architectural design, interior design trends, lifestyle and real-time property news updates, and the right way to navigate through property development and investment. Join me every week on this channel as I take you through an exciting journey in the world of real estate.
Space and Style, 6:30 p.m. on Saturdays and 5:30 p.m. on Wednesdays.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, Plus TV Africa, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
All right, welcome back. It's still The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Time now to talk some politics. As part of its last-minute efforts to stave off any possible violation of the Electoral Act, the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, has given a deadline to cabinet members and other executive appointees at both the state and federal levels, within which they must resign their appointment if they intend to participate in its forthcoming round of primary elections. According to the set of guidelines for the primaries, the appointees now have till this Saturday to quit their present offices. As part of this, a lot of people will be affected. The Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, and other ones who have, a political appointment will be affected by this particular development. So just how far would they really go? We have 2 analysts joining us to look at all of that. We have John Gaul Lebo and Festus Tukumbo. Many thanks for joining us, gentlemen, on this particular discourse.
Thank you very much.
All right, one would have thought that it would be the moral thing to do, knowing that you are in government and you have intentions to the contest for the elections of next year. Ordinarily, the right thing to be done would be to resign. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I think so. Just like you said, it's a moral thing to do, it's a legal thing to do, it's a constitutional thing to do. The problem is that Nigerians find it very easy to lift a moral burden. So a lot of our leaders lack that conscience, they lack that moral obligation to always comply with issues as this. But that said, I think the main problem here has been the confusion between the amendment of the last amendment of the Electoral Act and the fact that the Attorney General had taken steps to procure a court order from an Abia State Federal High Court to try to nullify or make nugatory the provision of that Electoral Act. And when that order was served, the National Assembly still went ahead and continued with the process of the amendment of that act. And I think also they procured an order of stay of execution at the Court of Appeal. So I think in between that judgment and the stay of execution and the decision of the National Assembly to continue with the amendment, I'm sure most members of the Federal Executive Council were hoping that that provision will not take effect. And particularly the Attorney General, who we suspect was behind that court order from the Abia Federal High Court. You know, we're also hoping that that provision of 30 days to the primaries to resign will not take effect. But obviously, because the National Assembly has passed the law, because there was a stay of execution by the Court of Appeal, and that provision has taken effect, I'm sure they are caught napping. I'm really surprised that somebody who is the law officer of the Federation, the Attorney General of the Federation, will not appreciate or understand the implication of such a provision. I'm also surprised that key members of the Federal Executive Council, including Rotimi Amechi, who is my colleague, having said that Speaker, two-time Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, will not understand the implication of
All right, let's see if we can bring Festus Tukumbo into the conversation. We seem to be having some connectivity issue with John Gall Label. Festus Tukumbo, are you still there with us? Festus, can you hear us? All right, Mercy, these are part of the discussions we were having, you know, during Off the Press, legal versus morality and all of that. And remember candidly, or vividly rather, Ezekiel Nyaeto talked specifically about the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation who should know the right thing, but is actually contesting that particular session in court.
So, you know, apart from the fact that, you know, you have a morality conversation, you also need to look at what the party guideline says. Now, section of, you know, the party guideline for the APC, section 3I of the APC guideline for the nomination of candidates for 2023 general election says, no political appointee at any level shall be given voting delegate or be voted for the purpose of nomination of candidate. Any political office holder interested in contesting for an elective office shall leave the office 30 days prior to the date of the election or to party primary for the office sorted. And let's not forget that you're going to have, you know, the party primaries for the APC that's slated for the 30th through the 31st of May. And so that's a lot. But it brings us back to the conversation of how far have we respected our laws? Because we have laws. I mean, if we talk about a lot of laws, if we have implemented half of the laws that we have in this country, if we obey our laws, I'm not sure that, you know, Nigeria will be where it is today. Not just to the ruling class, I mean, the elite at this point in time. You also want to talk about the, you know, the followership. So this, you know, the conversation is very encompassing. We've seen a couple of times, I mean, several times where you have the president not adhering to several laws. I mean, there are different times where you have prominent persons. We seem to always obey the parts of the Constitution or any guideline that suits our interest and concern. I don't know if we do have, you know, John Gall Labor or, you know, other guests. Okay, but as soon as we're able to have our guests join us, we'll continue the conversation. So it's encompassing. The issue of, now you have the ministers. The ministers are saying that they're not going to resign.
Why the commissioners are actually resigning?
No, that's at the state level now. So at the state level, you have a lot of compliance, and some of the persons who are going to be contesting for elective, offices and positions are tendering their resignation. But then you now come to the federal level. Some of these ministers are saying, hey, we're not resigning. For instance, you have, Chris Ngige saying he's not gotten a letter. He's not been, given that letter and asked to resign at the end of the day. So, but you ask yourself, don't you think that this is actually the impunity that we constantly talked about? And do we have a system that can purge itself of all of this disobedience and not, disregard for, the law at the end of the day? So, but fingers crossed, let's see what begins to happen. I mean, if you also have the Attorney General of the Federation, I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm mistaken, is also on that particular list,
yes,
right?
He is, yeah.
And so he should be the custodian, of the law at this point in time.
That's why he's contesting it in court. All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk some more. Stay with us.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment. And another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thought and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It's still The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We do have our guests on standby via Zoom, John Lebo, who joins the conversation, and Festus Tokumbo, who's also on standby. Thank you once again, gentlemen, for being part of the show this morning.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's bring in Mr. Festus Tokumbo at this point. Mr. Festus, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so let's look at it now. So for the guideline of the APC, he also talks about the fact that if they seek any political office, they need to tender their resignation 30 days before this. And you have the minister saying they're not going to resign. What do you make of this scenario? What do you make of the situation?
Thanks for having me in your live show. You see, there are three basic instruments that governs the general elections in Nigeria. It's about the Constitution and the Electoral Act of 2022 and the parties' guidance, electoral guidance. And it is stipulated in these three documents that political appointees must resign before 30 days before the general election, before the presidential election. So they have no option. They have to resign their appointment because the beauty of a democracy is the rule of law. It's equality before the law. So no one should be more important or more powerful than the Constitution. So they have to resign. They have no options. That's my opinion.
So in a case where they have rightly stated that they insist that they're not, tendering, they're not going to tender their resignation. What will be the implication of that, looking at the primaries and also the general election?
The National Assembly passed the electoral amendment law in February 2022 that stated that the political appointees must resign before a general election. So they have to. They can't take the country to ransom, because of their political ambitions. And in any way, they are not being deprived of contesting, because by allowing appointees to conduct a general election, they can give us some leverage in terms of influence over the electorate. It will not be a fair election anymore. That's the consequence.
All right, but looking at all of that, one would have thought that, for someone like the Minister of Justice, who is also nursing ambition, to run for elective office, he would actually know what the law says, because judging by the APC new guidelines, they have 30 days to do that. But he's actually contesting that particular section of the Constitution, that's section 84, subsection 12. What does this really tell of people who should understand the law?
The question is, does the Minister of Justice, is it more powerful than the President that signed the bill into law in February? That stated that the appointees, political appointees, must resign before an election. It is not done anyway, you understand? They just have to resign. They cannot just maneuver the political engineering for their own interests. The interest of 200 million people should be paramount than the interest of few politicians that are trying to change the laws. Are you getting it?
Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, this is not something that should be up for public debate because the Constitution is paramount. It's not something that is up for public debate, The case is in the court, but we can't, the election is just about 1 year from now. We cannot wait for a case that has not been decided in court. We have to go with the Constitution. We have to go with the Electoral Act that was amended in February 2022. That's it.
All right,
that's what I feel.
Let's have John Lebo at this point. John Gore, so what happens if you don't have these politicians, those who are aspiring to become president or governors or what have you at the APC, at the party level, tendering their resignation? What will happen? What becomes of, the primaries? Will they be asked not to be part of it? What's going to happen? We'd like to share your thoughts on that.
Okay, I think the implication is very clear. By the provision of the constitution of both parties, the two major parties, the PDP and the APC, by the provision of the Electoral Act, resignation is a precondition to qualification to run the election. So, for instance, if the Attorney General of the Federation does not resign 30 days to the primaries, he will not be screened by the party as an electoral panel, because each of the political parties also has a screening process. That screening process gives you a certificate of qualification to contest the primaries. It is only after you have been screened, you get the certificate of screening that you can take part in the primaries. And when you win the primaries, your name will be forwarded to INEC. Now, the implication of contravening the provision of the Constitution requiring all political appointees to resign is that any political appointee who does not resign will not be cleared by the screening committee of the political party. Now, the screening committee of the political party is your first level of trying to get your candidates to be, your candidates who will eventually be nominated to be duly qualified. In the sense that if they are not duly qualified, the other party, after the nomination has been filed to INEC, will take the party to court and you lose your candidate. And by the time you lose your candidate at the point of nomination, you cannot replace them. A typical example is what happened in Zamfara State, where APC won the House of Assembly, House of Reps, Senate, and gubernatorial election. And they lost all because of lack of qualification of the candidate. In that case, it was because instead of doing indirect primaries, they did direct primaries and all of that. And the primary was taken to Abuja instead of Zamfara State. So that's what you find. The parties try to put together a first hurdle, which is an internal cleaning system. The internal cleaning system is to ensure that all our candidates within the party are qualified. They've complied first with the provision of our Constitution, they've complied with the provision of the Electoral Act and the provision of the Constitution before they are duly nominated. Don't forget that the political party is entitled only to nominate one candidate among its best material. So by the time you bring up the Attorney General of the Federation as governorship candidate for Kebbi State, having not complied with the provision of the APC Constitution and the Electoral Act, PDP will just wait. Once his name is nominated, they go to court and set aside. And then APC will not have a candidate in that election. That is the implication. And I think that from my experience, no political party will take that risk, because it's a risk that does not have an insurance. You don't have a backup plan. Once your primaries go on, and the winner of that primaries, you cannot also replace the winner of the primaries. If he's not qualified and you go ahead to fill in for that primary and he gets the nomination, PDP will wait on the other side, or the case may be APC will also wait on the other side, and then you're going to lose the nomination.
So, but at the end of the day, let's also look at this now. Do you think that there are any lacunas, in the Electoral Act or the party constitution or the constitution itself, that these individuals, these appointees can actually challenge, go to court to challenge the process?
Well, I think that it's not a question of lacuna, it's a question of interpretation. The difference between the legislature and the executive is that while the legislature has a responsibility to pass the law, it is the responsibility of the judiciary to interpret the law. And so that is why usually in law we say that the prophecy of what the courts will say in fact and nothing more pretentious is what we mean by the law. Now what that means is that no matter the provision of the Constitution, sometimes they highlight the summary or the legal implication of the Constitution or of any statutory provision of the Constitution comes out clearly by a better expression by the judiciary. So what I see happening here is that from the provision of the Electoral Act, the provision of the party constitution, what the Attorney General of the Federation is trying to do is to try to get an interpretation that suits the fact that they are not entitled to resign. Counting on the provision of the Interpretation Act, which is also a law of the one of the laws of the Federation. Now, within the Interpretation Act, they are trying to imply that a political appointee is not entitled to resign, that they are not among the bracket of the appointees that should resign, which the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal have already pronounced on who is a public officer. The Electoral Act itself on its own, in the interpretation provision of the Electoral Act, has defined who is a public officer. The Constitution of the Federal Republic on its own has defined who is a public officer. The Constitution of the APC on its own in the interpretation provision has defined who is a public officer. The Interpretation Act laws of the Federation has defined who is a public officer, and a public officer is anybody. A public officer is differentiated with a political appointee. A political appointee is a person who holds his appointment at the mercy of the elected officer. For instance, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, all the ministers are all political appointees. The commissioners in the state appointed by the governor are all political appointees. Public officers are civil servants. There are different interpretations to it, but I think what they are trying to push for now is to say that includes public officers. They are public officers and not political appointees, which will not hold water. The law is very clear. There's a Court of Appeal decision, there's a Supreme Court decision to that interpretation.
All right, let's have your final thought on that, Festus Tokumbo. If you're still there on this particular discourse, what do you think lies ahead for these political appointees who are affected?
Well, first of all, I want to make a comment about what my colleague said about that political appointees claim to be a public officer. The law recognize them as political appointees. An appointment is at the mercy of the appointees, which is the president or the governor. So they cannot claim to be political officers. And at the end of the day, the constitutions have to be interpreted. It has been clearly stated that the political appointees that want to seek public offices have to resign before the elections. So that is what I feel is going to be the case at the end of the day. They're just trying to see how they can change the law, change the practices, and get their opinion, and get their achieve their political interests.
Okay.
But it's yeah.
So quickly, let's also bring John Gall. This probably might just be the last for us here. What's really different now? At the time where you also contested, I mean, you were still a political office holder, and you never had to tender your resignation. So what is different now?
Because I was not appointed, I was elected. For instance, now, the difference is that three things now. First, public officers are civil servants. Political appointees are appointed at the mercy of the governor or the president or the chairman of the local government, as the case may be. Now, their tenure is tied to the tenure of the governor, the minister, the governor, the president, or the chairman of the local government. In my own case, I was elected for a fixed period. As a member of the House of Assembly, I was elected for 4 years. So from May 2019, in the first year, to May 2019, in the fourth year. It's the same reason if the president was running for a second term, he will not resign, because his tenure is guaranteed by the Constitution for 4 years. That's why President Buhari, having been elected in May 29, 2015, stayed in office and got elected for second term and sworn in on May 29, 2019. Now, it's the same thing that happens. The same reason why the Senate president cannot resign, the same reason why the governor, who is seeking a second term in office, cannot resign, is because they have a term fixed by the Constitution for 4 years. And within that 4 years, they cannot resign. It's either they contest the election and win and return back. After the second term, you get another tenure, or you lose your election and you leave the office. So elected officers don't resign. It is appointed officers who resign.
So should we not also consider elected officers resigning?
No, because that would be wrong, because the tenure of the elected officers is not held at the mercy of an appointment. It's held at the provision of the Constitution that guarantees a period of 4 years. So you cannot terminate the 4 years in between.
But you also...
If you're seeking a second term, like in the case of a governor, who's entitled to get a second term, after that he will get another term. That second term will terminate on the date of his inauguration, the anniversary of his inauguration. So a governor who is elected into office, for instance, in May 2019, his tenure will terminate, May 29, 2019, his tenure will terminate in May 29, 2023. Within that period, if he's entitled to a second term, the Constitution, the Electoral Act, and the Constitution of the party allow him, while in office, to seek for a second term. Because his tenure still exists, has not been terminated by virtue of the provision of the Constitution.
All right, we'll just leave it at that. A big thank you to public affairs analyst John Gore-Lebo and, of course, Festus Tokumbo. Thanks for the thoughts that you have shared today. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
Thank you so much for being part of the show. But Justin, just before we move away from this, don't you think that, you know, it's a good thing that we're saying that let's have these appointees tender their resignation? And the question for me was, don't we, or shouldn't we consider elective officers also tendering their resignation? Because we understand the dynamics. I mean, the role that, you know, the power of incumbency has always played for every other elections. And so beyond the you know, all of the externals, I mean, all of the things that we know, but we also understand the power of influence. I mean, some persons have quoted that constantly you have these persons who are in control using state resources, you know, to their own personal interests.
Oh yeah, well, true, because that's very debatable. Because some people would say that haven't been in office, still been in office rather, and you're thinking of contesting, that you might not really channel all your resources, all your time and energy on government and governance. There's this talk that they might want to divert government money into their campaign and the electioneering process, and you know, that would actually affect you know, the people at the end of the day. Well, it is still debatable, but there's this. There's still the Constitution, which has actually guaranteed them, you know, the rightful 4 years.
But the Constitution was made by man and for man, and that's it.
All right, we'll take it away from here. We'll come back. We'll look at politics still, but in another direction. This time I'll be focusing on drug integrity test in a moment. Do join us again.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshuke.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. Right, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event
on Plus TV. Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, Plus TV Africa, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
That's the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Thanks for staying with us this morning. Let's head straight to our second conversation, where there's a proposed plan to have drug tests. Now, as the ruling All Progressive Party, APC, sets to hold its presidential primaries on the 30th of May through the 31st, 2022. The chairman and the chief executive of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Brigadier General Buba Marwa, has written a letter to the chairman of the All Progressive Congress of the APC, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, requesting that the officials of the NDLEA be given access to conduct drugs integrity tests for politicians seeking political office in the country. The drug tests will be carried out in other political parties prior to their primaries. Now, according to the NDLEA, the drug test is necessary to ensure that politicians vested with important national office do not use budgetary allocation to go to buy cocaine and other drugs instead of providing needed services for the masses. While some quarters say that the proposal might be due to previous charges of drug use among politicians, others are saying it might just have a political undertone. Now, in the early 90s, the former governor of Lagos State, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was arrested and charged with trafficking of heroin and other hard drugs. This is according to the reports that's been made available that happened in the United States. We have Leonard Ayogo, who is a legal practitioner. He joins the conversation this morning. It's good to have you join us.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. So let's get straight to it. I mean, what do you make of this development, drug tests for politicians, just prior to their primaries?
Additionally to that intention, I would rather want to, I wish we can have what we call character tests for our politicians and our aspirants seeking different offices.
When you say counter test, what do you mean by counter test?
I'll come back to that.
Oh,
when I say character test, I'll come back to that. When you say there should be drug tests, you know, as a lawyer, I want to look at the legal provision, if any, that provides for such an intention. Because I really gone through the Electoral Act and the Nigerian Constitution. There's no clear provision that says that aspirants for political offices will have to undergo drug tests. But you can also read into the meaning of qualifications for someone vying for an office in Nigeria, or somebody who can be removed from office. Now, if you look at section 188, 189 of the Constitution, and some other extant laws, someone can be removed from office if he's mentally unstable, if he becomes sick, if he can no longer perform the duty of that office. But then it's only a competent court of law where through the medical angle that can satisfy somebody to be an unfit for an office. So that is one area that you can glean that, okay, if you are a drug addict, you are no longer mentally fit to hold an office, you can be removed from office. But, you know, we are a growing democracy. So if what we are saying as a country to get our electoral system, to value our electoral system, that we are introducing this drug test, good and fine. But the timing is a case. Now, how do you satisfy somebody to be a drug addict? You must take him through the medical test and all that. And for how long? Then the person will also challenge the possibility of him challenging that medical test that was not conducted in a facility that is that he has confidence in and all that. So I think that the timing at this moment, looking at the primaries are already here, next month the political primaries will be conducted. It may be wrong, but the intention is well intended. But beyond that, we can, okay, let me come back to what I mean by character test. You know, the constitution we operate is has some lacuna. Somebody gets to office, I'm talking about the immunity clause now for the executive, and he behaves in such a way that any reasonable man will question that, is this man actually, or this man or woman actually occupying this office, does not have a character deficiency, and you cannot question that because the person has immunity. So now that's why I said the character test will come to play. It's in the moral angle now because there's no law that said actually a bad character of a governor, a deputy governor, a president, or a vice president can lead to its removal because of the immunity clause. So it's a changing time. So the drug test, as it stands now, may not be workable because of the time frame, and so we have to get a clear-cut time frame because some people will build into it what we call political vendetta and all that. So we have to have a clear framework for it to work. I'm afraid, as it stands now, it's very difficult for any aspirant to be disqualified based on the fact that maybe he has failed drug tests, because that failure will be challenged in court.
Okay, fine. I understand the fact that you've talked about timing. Maybe if we can do it for this particular dispensation or this primary, maybe in future we should consider that. But having said that, you brought about the issue of morality versus legality yet again. If the Constitution tells us that you can only remove someone if he's mentally unstable, if you look at it in another way, why not do this test, to be certain that this person actually is fit, so you don't actually start going through the rigors of the court afterwards?
I agree with you. That's why I said, for us to achieve this intention, it's a very laudable intention, because we shouldn't encourage drug addicts to occupy sensitive public offices, political offices. And then, of course, remember that it's not just for politicians, political office holders. It should be for all strata of public service. Because if you look at the situation we find ourselves, it's actually very difficult for you to have a clear framework. Now, how do you certify somebody to be a drug addict? There must be medical examination. There must be history of check and balances. You know that even in sports circle, some athletes have failed doping tests, not necessarily because they are taking some drugs, but some will argue that these drugs they took was for medical reasons, which has constituted a violation, and they have sometimes they are being punished unnecessarily. So that's why I said, so that we will not model up the system and it leads to all manner of accusation. Let us have a clear template. I expected the respectable DG of NDLA to come out with a framework. Now, the drug test, what duration? Once a medical test is conducted and you say that, okay, there's a drug test, will that be the final situation, or the person can challenge such drug test for a higher test and confirmatory test and all that? So because if you just do one test and the person fails and say, that's it, you are disqualified, the person will have the right to have a second confirmation. Now, the situation is that let us have a clear framework. It's a laudable intention. But as I tell you, I think the timing may not go well, because the primaries are here already. So how are you going to do that in such a short span? And then we can make it legal if it's this intention of Nigerians to be pegged into the Electoral Act, which is the principal legislation governing elections in Nigeria. So we can amend our Electoral Act to include drug tests and all that. So if we do that, it will become very legal. Otherwise, as it stands now, I can tell you, there will be huge litigations coming out from this kind of intention.
So now that we know that this does not have any constitutional backing, or there's no legality to the drug test that's been embarked on by the NDLEA, do you think that the party leadership would actually agree to having this test conducted? Because that letter has been written already. Do you see the party agreeing to it? And what happens if this aspirant or this person's actually failed the drug test? Do you think that they will also be disqualified?
That's why I said, hello?
Yes, please. So the question is, do you see the political party?
That, if you can hear me.
Yes, please. Go ahead. Leonard, we can hear you.
Hello?
Leonard, we can hear you.
Fine. Maybe I didn't hear the other part of it because the network was a bit unstable. But I think no party will want to disagree with that. But I am more concerned about the implementation of the intention. Because if you set
We seem to be having a bit of, a network connection with our guests on the other side. As soon as we're able to resolve all of that, we'll definitely have Leonard join the conversation. He's a legal practitioner. To you, Justin, now, what do you really make of all of this? I mean, it's a very sensitive issue. We cannot also take out the fact that you have this agency. They'll always say there's no smoke without fire. And so the fact that you have this agency raising this concern, it shows that, there's been use of drugs amongst politicians.
Yes, I agree with you. I think for them to have come up with this particular stance, there maybe are some indications that some political office holders, they have failed, somehow the test, or maybe there are issues or investigations going on about them, and to avert that in public, that's why the NDLEA boss is actually suggesting that. But Leonard mentioned some couple of points that he talked about timing and all of that. The primaries, for instance, for the APC is about less than 30 days. So I don't know how that would work, because if you asked all those who have bought their nomination forms to go and do drug integrity tests, going back and forth before the elections and trying to bring all of that together, it might just bring some sort of confusion for the party.
That's why he's mentioned that moving ahead, I mean, it's going to be an interesting, pre-election year where you're going to see litigations
here and there.
Because a lot of persons will be dissatisfied with what's going on. But let's just see how all of this pans.
I really want them to go through the test because we need to know the mental status
but
of
if we were going to concede that
governing us, yes.
Yes. Okay, you're saying that it would be interesting to see that happen.
Yes, I'd love to see that play out, really.
Now, if we are very honest, if there's a sincerity of purpose with all of this, because usually the argument would always be that we don't have any sincerity at the end of the day. So it feels like it probably might just be an agenda. Why have we not considered we understand how all of these arguments could be. Why have we not considered making this part of our constitution? I mean, the constitutional review that's been going on. You also have the fact that the electoral law has come. We have been clamoring that the president should sign it. It's been signed and it was not part of it because you know that all of this is going to be some kind of argument. There's no legal backing to all of this. And so the constitution, the law actually guides the action and behavior of everyone. And so this is also, so the question will now be, what's the essence? Are we very sincere? Do we really want this to happen, or we're just going out and just chasing shadows? But other argument, I don't know if you've seen that, some people say that this have a political undertone. There might just be some persons who the system is trying to, reject or eject. I mean, these are conspiracy theories, but most times you find out those theories are becoming reality.
In some of them. Yes, true. Do we still have Leonard online? All right, Leonard.
Yes, I do. I can hear you.
Okay. Just wrap up your thoughts. We have a lack of time to discuss this. So let's just.
My thought is basically that when we have intention like this, the time should be of essence. And of course, we can always develop our electoral system by building in legislation that provides for a legal framework, so that it will not be under the whims and caprices of any person who does not like a particular person, and that's okay. Oh, you failed a drug test, and that is it, and then you'll be disqualified. So we can build into our electoral act, amend our electoral act, which is the principal legislation guiding elections, conduct of elections in Nigeria, so that you now know that, for you to aspire for any political office or other positions in the country, you must have to pass a drug integrity test. So the piece of legislation will really help, so that this principle or suggestion will not be abused by a political opponent. That is my fear. But then it is, of course, there's a medical council that can handle these matters if there's a proper time frame and there's a lot backing.
All right. Thank you so much, Leonard. That's as much as we can take from you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
All right. Thank you, Leonard, for being part of the show. Leonard is a member of the Chatham House, London. It's good to have you join us, and we look forward to sharing your thoughts as always. And that's the size of our conversation. If you missed out on any part of it, it's all right to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram And do subscribe to our YouTube channel with Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I am Messi Boko, and thanks for watching.
And I'm Justin Academy. Thanks for being a part of the show. We'll return again tomorrow, but just stand by for the news coming up top of the hour.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 when they pay.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from PlusTvAfrica.
Good morning to you. I am Justin Akadonye with the news brief on Plus TV Africa. President Muhammad Buhari has sworn in 4 new federal permanent secretaries, who are Beatrice Jadi Agba, MNI, Kachlam Daju, Malam Shehu Ibrahim, and Mary Ogbe. The president administered the oaths of office on the permanent secretary shortly before the commencement of the meeting of the Federal Executive Council at the Council Chamber of the State House, Abuja. Meanwhile, a minute's silence was observed by the council in honor of the former member of the council, Toya Graham Douglas, who passed on the 25th of April. In a related development, the Minister of Science and Technology, Ubunaya Ono, while briefing State House correspondents after the weekly meeting, announced the approval of the 2022 revised National Energy Policy by the Council. The policy takes into cognizance the vast available energy resources, including oil and gas, coal and renewable energies, with a view to effectively utilizing them for overall national growth.
Nigeria is so blessed, and what we want to do is to make sure that we have a mix that will bring in all the various energy resources that Nigeria has for the benefit of our nation. We have to plan our economy around the energy resources available to Nigeria.
Minister of Power Abubakar Ali presented a memo for the variation of subsisting contract for 132 direct circuit line from Kantampe to the Moshood Abiola Stadium in Abuja. The minister further disclosed that the council approved 2 contracts for the procurement of 2 sets of power transformers and the construction of transmission line in Kebbi State.
Offshore is 8.2 million euro. Then the onshore is 522.7 million naira. So the offshore remained the same. The offshore is now increased. The onshore is now increased to 724.6 million naira.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, who spoke on behalf of the Minister of Mines and Steel, announced that the Council had approved the engagement of transaction advisors for consultancy services for the concession of Ajaokuta Steel Company Limited and the National Iron Ore Mining Complex in Itakpe in a sum of 853.266 million naira, inclusive of 7.5% VAT. Now, the senators prohibited the payment of ransoms to kidnappers in its bid to complement the federal government's effort to tackle the disturbing spate of insecurity in the country. The payment of kidnap ransom was criminalized by the lawmakers during plenary in Abuja as they passed the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013 Amendment Bill 2022, following the receipt and consideration of a report by the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the bill. In his remarks, the Senate President, Ahmed Lawan, congratulated his colleagues on the passage of the bill, which he said was very important. Now, photos of abducted train passengers have been released by their abductors. The three set of photos released by the terrorists were believed to have been released on Monday night. The chairman of the Abducted Passengers Forum had hinted at a news conference in Kaduna that the federal government is talking to the terrorists. Recall that the terrorists in the first video released after the train attack hinted that they were not after money, but an exchange of the abducted passengers with their commanders, who they alleged were under the custody of the federal government. Well, still talking insecurity, the Public Relations Officer of the Department of State Services, DSS, Dr. Peter Afonanya, says some criminal elements are planning to return the country to the pre-2015 era, with the use of improvised explosive devices, IEDs, to attack worship and relaxation centers in the country. Afonanya, who said he had received reports of such cases in some areas, stated that he has uncovered plots by some suspected criminal gangs who were trying to form an alliance. The former director of the DSS, Dennis Amakri, also spoke on this.
Our citizens should understand one thing. Protection starts with you. Personal protection is number one. So it is not a matter of sitting down and waiting for the security agencies to come and do something. You call 911 or you call 211 and then they come. No. The protection of yourself starts with you. And the protection will, even where the agencies will come into play, will be when you have seen something or you hear something, you say something to the security agencies, and then they will help. So security agencies are not magicians, normally, and that's why these alerts are being given out. If you have places of relaxation, if you have a church, if you have a mosque, you should be able to start from now. It is not on the Saturday, right now, where you will start to protect those structures, those facilities. If you have a hotel, you start from now. And you should be on 24 hours alert. That's what the DSS is telling you right now.
Meantime, the Pan-Yoruba sociopolitical organization Afenifere has called for a government of national unity ahead of the 2023 general elections. In a communique issued on Wednesday by its National Publicity Secretary, Jare Ajayi, Afenifere said that the national unity government would help tackle insecurity challenges and midwife a new democratic government. It suggested that states that were ready for the management of a police force be allowed to establish one. The group, however, commended the performance of the Amotekun Security Network operating in the southwest in collaboration with other security agencies. Straight now to Zamfara State, where the government has dethroned 2 emirs and a district head over allegations of aiding the activities of bandits terrorizing communities in the state. Now, Ibrahim Dosara, who is the Commissioner for Information in the state, made the announcement while briefing reporters at the end of the State Executive Council meeting, which held in Gusau, the state capital. Those affected by the government's decision include the Emir of Zoumi, Abubakar Atiku, Emir of Dansado, Husseini Omar, as well as Suleiman Ibrahim, who used to be the district head of Birnin Saba. According to the commissioner, the government has also ordered that all land titles issued by the affected traditional leaders be revoked. It also comes days after the submission of the reports of the committee set up by the state government to investigate the allegations against the affected traditional rulers. Right now, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has held a meeting with critical stakeholders in Ogun State as part of his ongoing advocacy engagements towards the realization of his presidential ambition come 2023. Addressing the Remo traditional rulers, the Traditional Council and members of the All Progressives Congress in Remo, the Vice President considered himself as the best man for the job with track records of experience, patriotism and the fear of God. He also, behind closed doors, met with party officials and delegated members to the presidential primary expected to take place in Abuja next month.
With utmost humility, if we look around with utmost humility, and I say this with utmost humility, it is now evident that if there is anybody, any candidate or aspirant who on day one can hit the ground running, who on day one knows what to do, who will not spend another 2 years trying to decide what to do, that person is your son, Oluyemi Osinbajo.
The Ogun State Governor Dakwa Abiodun, who led other members of the State Executive Council, commended the purposeful leadership of the Vice President and expressed his total support for his aspirations.
To be the Vice President of this country, but he said it was not yet time. Some of us can attest to your loyalty, your steadfastness, your sincerity, your humility, your character, your integrity. You are an illustrious son of not just Remoland, Ogun State, but of Nigeria.
Now, the Akagbo paramount ruler of Remoland gave his royal blessings and prayed for the success of his ambition.
Mr. Vice President, well, like I said, that your days will be long, that you will continue to shine, that the good Lord will continue to smile upon you, and that at the end of the glorious day, you will see that there is indeed light at the end of the tunnel.
Now, presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, Governor Yahaya Bello, has picked up his expression of interest in nomination form to contest for the 2023 presidential election. Bello, who was the first to pay the 100 million naira required for the forms, was received by a mammoth crowd of party faithful and support groups from across the country. Addressing the crowd, Bello canvassed for the support of all in order to become the flag bearer of the party come the 30th and 31st of May. Now to the state of the nation. The leader of the Deeper Life Church, Williams Kumuyi, says Nigeria's economic growth, infrastructural development and national security, which is in disarray, can experience a total turnaround if every citizen is ready to take up the challenge. Addressing journalists on his arrival to Ogun State for a 6-day revival, Kumuyi maintained that everyone must work together to get every ugly situation fixed. The octogenarian believes Nigeria will rise again and become a country that is viable in economy, security, governance and social services as well as justice.
This crusade is yes about prayer, but then it's about expectation, it's about hope, it's about possibilities, it's about what God can do and what we can do through the power of God from Christ who provides everything for us. So when we talk about complete dominion, everyone who comes, of course, will want to have dominion in everything that hinders him in his personal life. And for the country, we can join our hearts together. If two of us shall agree as touching anything we ask, he'll do it for us. When we come to God with that positive expectation, a lot can happen for the better in our country.
A federal high court sitting in Abuja has fixed June the 2nd to hear the various applications in a suit seeking the extradition of the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, Presiding Judge Inyang Ikwo adjourned the matter after Pius Akuta, counsel to the Attorney General of the Federation, asked the court for more time to enable parties respond to processes served on them. Akuta noted that he had filed a motion for an extension of time on April the 19th. Nakeri's counsel, Mahmoud Magaji, did not object to the application. The entire world is gradually feeling the consequences of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, as well as the impact of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, religious leaders must continue to seek God's intervention. Now, this was the submission of the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, while receiving the leadership of the Nigeria Baptist Convention led by its president, Reverend Dr. Israel Akonji, who paid him a courtesy visit at the Lagos House Marina. Sanwo-Olu, who appealed for continued religious tolerance, peace, unity and safety in the state, Nigeria and the world, congratulated the Baptist leaders for their ongoing 109th convention and promised to collaborate with stakeholders to see what could be done to resolve some of the issues presented to him by the leadership of the Nigerian Baptist Convention.
If anybody does not understand what peace is, let them test what you can see. What is happening in Ukraine, it's not something anybody wishes for. And whilst we're battling that, and we can begin to see the consequences of it, higher energy crisis, food supply chain, disruption in world logistics, and it's affecting everyone. We all can sit back, and say that, no, it's far from me. The global market is a single market now. Everything it's globalized, and when you see disruption in some parts, it affects some other parts,
Earlier, Reverend Akonji commended the Babajide Sanwo-Olu and his administration for the harmony between Christians and Muslims in Lagos State and urged people to be courageous and not to lose hope in Nigeria. He appealed to the governor to complete the process of returning the Lagos Baptist Secondary School, Orile Agege, to the church.
We wish to request of you to complete the process of returning the Lagos Baptist Secondary School, Orile Agege, to us. The process actually began when Governor Ahmed Tinubu released the schools to the missionary bodies, but through the subsequent governments, the process is yet to be completed, although it has gone very far.
Staying here in Lagos, weeks after the tragic fire incident that occurred at Akpokpom Market, in which goods worth millions of naira were destroyed, a section of the Eko Bridge damaged, no serious work has begun, as the traders are concerned about the slow pace of repairs, which they say had caused low patronage. Details in this report.
There is no evidence of work going on top of the bridge, as the traffic jam still persists. But skeletal works seem ongoing under the bridge, as some men were seen digging around the edge of the pillars. They claim that they have been working since last week Wednesday and that they are from the Ministry of Works. Some of the traders affected by the inferno, who sometimes hang around to display their scanty wares, are no longer under the bridge, while those in their shops lament low sales.
For where? The market is not the same thing. Number one, when people cannot apply this place, easy access to get to us, it reduces people that comes to Lagos. You understand? Number two, this market is, one person cannot sell this cake line, this our line. You can't have everything. Those people that their shop got ponds, we work, it's like interwoven. One person, about 20, 30 people is attached to that one person. We sell, they sell. If somebody comes here and I say, give me this, the ones who don't have, you call your neighbor, they will join together to sell. So it makes the market to go down. Especially the traffic is giving headache.
Business has not been the same today because a lot of traffic on the way. So people now think about the traffic. It will make them not to come. But however, we've been trying our best. But really, it has not been the same. It takes a lot of time coming to this place. So it has affected the business.
The economy, so maybe economy is another thing. But the main thing then, because of this fire, everywhere scattered. People are not coming as they used to come. The patronage is low.
As you know, Kiari Market is a wholesale outlet. We have our customers cut across the country.
Nenna Uwakwe says the situation is worse because of Ramadan.
Ramadan affects my sales too. Even the Christian fasting, we just came out of it. It has never been the same. The economy too is not helping matters. Things are going up day after day.
As the repair work gradually begins, the traders are hopeful that the repair will be completed soon. Paul George, PlusTV News.
And outside the shores of Nigeria now, the UN's humanitarian coordinator has visited South Sudan to assess needs at the ground and meet people affected by ongoing violence as well as natural disasters. Sarah Basalo, the humanitarian coordinator and deputy special representative of the Secretary General United Nations mission in South Sudan, in her visit to the camp of Malakal in Sudan or South Sudan's Upper Nile, said she would like to see some shifts in terms of the localization of activities, working more with local NGOs, but also with cash and cash-based initiatives. Now, women and children, particularly internally displaced ones, are more vulnerable and at risk of physical harm. The United Nations estimates that 6.8 million people will need urgent assistance this year. $1.7 billion humanitarian response plan for the country is currently only around 80% or 8% funded. Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has denounced Russia's decision to hold gas supplies to Bulgaria and Poland and called it blackmail of Europe. Now, Russia considers not only gas but any trade as a weapon. It is just waiting for the moment when one or another trade area can be used to blackmail Europeans politically, he said in a late-night video address. Now, Russia halted gas supplies to Bulgaria and Poland on Wednesday for rejecting its demand for payment in rubles. Poland and Bulgaria are both former Soviet-era satellites of Moscow that have since joined the EU and NATO, with Poland being one of the Kremlin's most vocal opponents over the war. Referring to the European Commission proposal of a one-year suspension of import duties on all Ukrainian goods, Zelensky said the decision to suspend the duties will help Ukraine's economy and expressed his gratitude. Now, the International Criminal Court prosecutor Karim Khan says that it is time to stand up for justice in Ukraine. This is not really a time for taking or talking, it is a time for action. Khan said after an informal UN Security Council meeting on accountability in Ukraine organized by France and Albania.
The message at the moment really must be a reinvigoration of the law, an acceleration of effort to make the law solid, to make the law real, and not an abstract principle that is for lawyers in their robes in courtrooms in the distant Hague, or even in courtrooms in Ukraine or in Poland or anywhere else for that matter. It really needs to be seen, and it needs to have an effect to try to mitigate the worst excesses of human behavior that are manifested in crimes within the court's jurisdiction. We should feel ashamed. We should feel ashamed that in 2022 we continue in so many parts of the world to see violence that may constitute genocide, crimes against humanity and war crimes. And the pictures at this particular moment, the focus is on Ukraine, but in many other parts of the world, we need to do better.
Now, time for business news. The subsidy on premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, between January and March 2022 has risen to 675.93 billion naira. But that's according to the latest data obtained by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company. This is coming as the NNPC informed the Federation Account Allocation Committee that it will deduct or recover 671.88 billion naira from April 2022. Now, figures from NNPC in Abuja on Wednesday showed that the oil firm spent 210.38 billion naira, 219.78 billion naira, and 245.77 billion naira of subsidy on petrol in January, February, and March 2022, respectively. It's now time for entertainment news. Witnesses at the defamation trial that actor Johnny Depp has filed against his ex-wife, actor Amber Heard, testified on Wednesday. that they saw no injuries to Heard following an alleged domestic dispute with Depp. A police officer and a front desk worker who interacted with Heard after the incident in May 2016 said that they saw no marks on Heard's face, indicating that she had been physically abused by Depp, as she later claimed. Now, Tyler Harden, an officer with the LAPD, said that he and his partner concluded after being called to Depp's penthouse apartment and interviewing Heard and others at the scene that no physical altercation had taken place. The witness testimony was recorded in early 2021 and played at the trial that is now in its third week in Fairfax, Virginia. The 58-year-old actor is suing Heard, 36, for $50 million. Heard has countersued for $100 million, saying Depp smeared her by calling her a liar. In sports news now, Liverpool coach Jurgen Klopp has called on his side to stay completely alert after their 2-0 Champions League semi-final first leg win over Villarreal on Wednesday, insisting that the scoreline could give a false impression. Now, Liverpool dominated from the start at Anfield with 2 quick-fire second-half goals, putting them on the verge of a third Champions League final in 5 seasons. Klopp, however, who has won all 4 of his home Champions League semi-final matches as a manager with Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool, seeing his team score 15 times while conceding 3, insisted the job was not done yet.
Full work is to do. There's nothing happened yet. That's how it is. For me, it's the best example. You play a game and it's 2-0 at half-time. You have to be completely on alert. You have to be 100% in the right mood. You have to play the second half like you play the first half. There's nothing to defend. If you do that, you get immediately all the advantages you might have had before away. We know we go there and will be a tricky atmosphere for us, obviously difficult and different to tonight. These players who saw that tonight, this coach, they fight for it with all they have. What I like that everybody could see, we fight with all we have, and it's always the same. If they beat us with a result, but give them to brings them to the final, then they deserve it. And if not, then we deserve it. That's how the competition is.
Meanwhile, Villarreal coach Unai Emery admitted that the 2-0 result has complicated his side's path to the final. But in the post-match news conference, he insisted they could still turn things around on home turf for the second leg next week. Well, sports news wraps it for us and the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Justin Akadonyi. Many thanks for watching and stand by for Plus Sports.
There is no voting on social media.